Okay, so I guess we're ready to crank it up. So we have a town hall meeting. Sorry to keep you waiting, commissioners. Meeting 4:35. So, all right. So we're gonna just on this. We'll do what we call our soft opening. We won't have our formal opening until our actual meeting at 5:30. We'll just call the town hall meeting to order. I think it's scheduled from 5 until 5:30. Do we have anything specific to discuss? We have any requests from citizens? Anything? Anybody just want to talk to your commissioners? All right. Commissioners, you want to talk amongst yourselves? We'll wait. Here's what we'll do. We'll just wait for a little bit, see if anybody comes in. 5 o'clock is kind of hard to make if you get off work. So we'll just kind of wait a little bit. We'll keep the meeting open. The mic open. Yeah, keep the meeting open, the mic open, and we will chat a little bit. Budget stuff. Ready to delve into this? Ready to get?
I think we're ready.
Attorney's got a poker face on. That's good.
Just keep it running.
Just keep it running. Very good.
I will say the town hall has traditionally been 30 minutes prior to the regular meeting, 2 times a year. But for a long time, meetings are at 6:30, so the 6 o'clock start. So
Yeah.
it might be something to think about. Maybe doing a different way for town halls.
Yeah.
Twice per year.
Yeah, gotcha. For those who are just joining us, we have a town hall meeting going. For those who are just joining us, if you want to speak, you just come on up here, get our attention. We've got cards in the front. Mr. Superintendent, good to see you here.
Good to see you as well.
And you are, what is your, besides the budget, maybe what is your interest? Do you have a specific interest in our meeting tonight?
Not for the town hall so much. I was going to present a little bit about the school budget, part of the budget. Just maybe share a little information about Lakeland Middle Preparatory.
Okay. All right. Anything that's not directly related to the budget, we'll do that during our actual meeting. If it's just informal news updates about the school, do you want to do it now or do you want to do it in our actual meeting?
I can certainly do, yeah, why don't I do that now?
Yeah.
Actually, what I wanted to do, if this is I'm sorry, I haven't talked to anybody about this, because I just thought I have a little video that I can show you guys of the site work.
Awesome.
Now would be appropriate.
Man, that'd be great. Because it's not on our agenda, we don't have to, any budget stuff I'll have to hold because it's sunshine, but the updates, that'd be perfect.
Okay. For now?
No, you got the stage.
All right.
Now, if one of our citizens comes in, I'm going to lump you.
You love me. Sorry. You'll probably bump me to jail. They should.
Man, hey, I'm going to tell you what, we were driving down the road looking, doing our best to take a peek at the site work. It's a beautiful site.
Dude, it looks awesome. Oh, you're going to see, you're going to do better than a peek right here.
Unbelievable.
This was presented at our school board meeting. And Doug Burris with Renaissance Group actually took some drone footage of us of the site. So this is pretty close to up to date of the status of the site. And I'll try to give you a guided tour. My sense of direction is terrible. As well as I know the site, looking at it, hopefully I can make sure you understand what you're looking at. I think we'll be able to.
Yeah, you're feeding a rumor. I'll have you know, just yesterday, it's ironic, somebody accused me of having drones and keeping Lakeland drones and keeping an eye on people.
Well, this
Really?
this is the Renaissance Group.
It's in the budget.
Okay, so see a little bit here, but this was from just this, I believe just this past weekend is my understanding. It's not real exciting now.
Man, that's
We are looking west. You can see the sun setting there in the west. Over to the left is going to be the connection to Canada Road. That's Campus Drive. So basically you're looking here essentially, and it's going to get better and better as far as the view. So what you're going to have is, you've got this road, this is Campus Drive.
Do we have a pointer? Do we have a light?
Oh, I've got one, I'm sorry, I don't know why I didn't.
You just have a hands finger. All right.
Okay, so this is Campus Drive. It's going to go out to Canada Road. What you're seeing here is Lions Ridge, which is going to go to Old Brownsville Road. Okay, and this actually will wind up being a public dedicated street. This is Lions Crest Drive. So this is the street address for the city. So this is 5020 Lions Crest Drive. These will all three be eventually dedicated public roads. And essentially here-ish, and then back here, because it's an L shape, as you know, that's basically where the building itself will go. This will be kind of parking area here. The bus lane will come in here, and you'll get to see all this and even have a better view of it. But just to give you an idea. And I do want to say, ProSite, our contractor, has been excellent. They started off with the rainiest April in recorded history here in Memphis that we're aware. I think that's literally true. And they have absolute expression, make hay while the sun shines, and they have. I mean, every bit of dry weather that they've had, they really worked on. So far, so good with them. It's not over yet, obviously.
Okay, what was that address again?
5020 Lions Crest Drive. So you can see as we can get higher and higher, and obviously this section was entirely covered in pine for the most part. A few hardwoods in there, but mostly pine trees. All right, so what you're going to see back here when you turn around, again, the building will go back here. This is the sanitary sewer line. Okay, so this is being cleared for utility purposes. This is part of our property, and you can see that there. And also you can see Canada Road here. I'm sorry, Highway 70 here. You see a couple of cars going by there. Beautiful shot of the lake there. But this is where they're stockpiling dirt, basically, for the site. But that's on school system property as well. And you're about to get a really nice shot of Campus Drive here. And again, where we intersect with Lions Ridge and Lions Crest Drive here.
That's going to be one of the most beautiful campuses, right?
It is, yeah.
It'll be incredible.
It is. I mean, this is just the natural setting that's going to be there. It's really unlike anything around. And in particular, there's going to be an element of I'd say there's going to be an element of drama when you come in Campus Drive, and you're going to go down a little bit and rise up and see the school there. So it's really nicely designed. It's a beautiful piece of land, as we know. Right now we're on schedule. I'll go ahead and give this. This is part of my budget update, but certainly it's related to the budget. But the bid opening will be May 19th, and that's when we'll open the actual contractor's bids. Obviously, we bid this out in two packages. There was a site work package for the roads, and this group will put down the initial base coats of these roads, and then the contractor that comes in, they'll have the benefit of at least one of these roads as access roads, construction access, and they should have, by the time the contractor comes in to get to work, a building pad that's already graded and ready to go, and in fact, hopefully a certain amount of infrastructure in there. So that should save them some time and allow us to meet our schedule to open in August of 2017.
When they clear, did they leave any trees
What's that?
on the campus? Any trees at all?
Yes, we will plant trees. There's a landscaping plan for the campus. In fact, there's a pretty, well, by Lakeland standards, there's a line of trees that lines the front of the campus. It would be a really nice entrance
They
there.
weren't able to save any of the mature trees then?
Well, there honestly weren't a lot of mature trees here. Now, there's on the entirety of the site, a lot of the mature trees really have been saved because the building was designed around the most mature trees, and that was part of at the request of the Jones family, and we worked with Richie Smith, their what do you call it, environmental planner, to kind of make that happen. So there are a lot of really nice mature trees on our property that have been saved, and it was kind of designed around this. Most of what was put out was pine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, exciting times for y'all on the street.
It is. It's exciting. A lot of fun. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer.
No, that's great.
Okay.
Who's not on
Doug Burris with the drum this past weekend from Renaissance Group, so one of our architects.
that? See, there is a drum.
Yeah, yeah.
Told Doug you got that drum, so we're gonna have to get his feet money going up there.
I got him right there.
I turned it on.
That's good. All right. I don't think we've had anyone else join us. I hate to close the meeting out and then someone will walk in and want to address us in the town hall meeting. So I'll adjourn this meeting about 5 minutes till, give everyone just 5 minutes to stretch. We'll get 5:30 sharp. We'll make an arrangement.
We should have said that we were on taxes and everybody would show.
Yeah, you're right. I'd rather not show up for that reason, maybe. I think I'm gonna eat burgers tomorrow. Healthy, yeah, I think I'm gonna eat it tomorrow.
See you over there.
That's official part of the record now. Man, that's good. Butcher Shop Burgers. Anybody been on Butcher Shop Burger on Friday?
Man, it's gotten to $8.
Yeah,
I remember $5 Burger Fridays.
yeah,
It's $8 for
yeah.
burger. Bacon's an extra $2.
Why these two? So it costs me $6.
Yeah, yeah, 16. That's real
$5.
nice.
You can't even go to McDonald's for $5.
I'm saying, that's how it used to be. It used to be $5 burgers on Friday.
It has to be so
Yeah.
much better.
Oh, man. We got a Canadian privilege over here. We got another area to cut it, but. Barbecue festival. Anybody been down to the barbecue festival?
They start tonight.
I think family night was last night, right? And tonight is actually the first night of it. Anybody go down there for family night?
It's supposed to be going tomorrow.
Tonight's Farmer's birthday, so the actual judging is tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night, Friday night, are both party nights. I think, yeah. You know how much it is. All right. Ready to get working tomorrow night? We'll be there. There's a bunch of Baptist people gonna be down there tomorrow.
What can I think are?
Yeah, right, exactly.
I think so.
Actually, Lindsay's there tonight. Yeah, and then tomorrow night, there's gonna be a lot of people.
I think they call it like a sponsor night too.
Huh?
I think they call it sponsor.
Sponsor. Yeah, you're right. I think that's exactly right, yeah.
Are you calling it? You make the squares?
Do what?
And squares for time?
Well, he predicts, it's a little game we get, predicts how long it takes, pretty accurate in an hour.
2 or 3 more minutes. Anybody got any announcements? We got 5 minutes.
Here.
Anything from our Lakeland Currents staff over here?
Awaiting.
Waiting the news, you're awaiting the news,
Yeah.
you're creating the news, and y'all are
Oh,
not.
well, I did. I talked to Yehuda today, and I talked to Top Better today. I found out about what's going to be next door to Starbucks. Did y'all see I posted that?
Oh,
No, I missed it.
I called him and talked to him, and he said it's going to be
can you come to the mic? I want to hear this. I really do. Do you
I am
mind?
not the news.
I know, but it's
I
like,
am the news.
y'all are, this is it's newsworthy and it's news.
Do I have to say who I am?
Yes, please.
I am Lakeland Current.
Lakeland Currents, there you go.
Okay, I talked to Tom Better, who's the shopping center development person, and he said they got the release on the lease yesterday. It's going to be Marco's Pizza. That's going to be beside Starbucks.
Awesome. Okay,
And he doesn't have any more restrict people.
that's great.
He says he's working on it, but he doesn't have them. And I talked to Yehuda with the Wings of Rescue in the Lake District, and he's coming, he's helping to meet with his community group next week when
Okay.
he comes to town, that Tom knows about. And he said there's no change, he's still planning to, close before the end of the year.
Okay,
That's
awesome. Well, that's great news. Thank you. Very informative. Yes.
We have a community cleanup on the median to help with mulch on the 21st, so if anybody is available, need your help. Putting mulch on the trees, the median, so it looks uniform and nice, so it needs to sign and it looks nice.
Can we send a reminder out to commissioners a couple of days prior to, because I'll end up forgetting that. I may be there.
Where do we get the sticks that have the, nail or whatever on them? Did you say you had some? I heard Ms. Rose was trying to say that she could come get another stick from.
Oh, yeah, we have those here.
Pick the trash pickup there?
Yeah, we have some here.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to do that? I thought about it.
Sure.
I did.
Looks a little.
Yeah, but it's not real long.
I know, that'd be like, that's the option.
I know,
It's like
they would be.
120.
Yeah, no, it gets a lot of trash, because there's a lot of traffic back there, but, you get over and get into people's yards on that right-hand side, and the left-hand side are, developments right there. It's actually a little over 500 feet.
You see that real estate sign, the for sale sign? It's like almost in the street.
Yeah.
There's no way it's
We was here on 70 or
on Evergreen. The first house on the right.
They had 2 signs on that property. They had a huge, bank foreclosure sign there on this property. They took that up. So I guess John probably got that. Okay. Well, it looks like we are at our 25-minute mark, so we will close the town hall meeting, stretch legs for 5 minutes, return. We will start at 5:30 sharp. We'll open up. Deputy will open us up at 5:30. Thank you.
you want to press it or?
Yes, I do actually. And I got there, the mayor got it too.
I'll put it down for adoption street, so we, why don't we sign it down?
I got dibs on that thing.
I can't remember what he was talking about.
I have one, I've never used it.
You know, the pizza work. Sure. I can.
I mean, hey, we need to repeal things, that's.
All right, right?
Well, that's good.
Yeah. I got it.
Your Honor, Mayor White Bunker is presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation and the pledge.
Bow your heads. Father, we once again thank you for the opportunity to serve our city. Thank you for these residents, these staff members that have joined us tonight to deliberate that business. Father, we pray your guidance, for your protection over this meeting tonight, and just bless our time together. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Report, call the roll, please.
Mayor Bunker.
Here.
Vice Mayor Roman.
Here.
Commissioner Dial. Here. Commissioner Talley.
Again, I don't see anybody. Yep, yes. No, nobody's about the card. Does anybody feel like speaking on this? No? Next item.
Is there anybody that wants
You said no. Would you like to speak on this now, sir? No.
Next item, treasurer's report, general fund, state street aid fund, debt service fund, sewer fund, stormwater fund, solid waste fund.
Okay, can I get a motion to get these to the floor?
So moved.
Second. We have a second by Commissioner Howell. On the floor, do we have any discussion regarding the treasurer's report? No discussion. All right, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right, Madam Reporter.
Reports from committees, members of the Board of Commissioners, and other officers. Shelby County Sheriff's Report.
We haven't been notified of Lieutenant Lomax's replacement yet, so we'll continue contacting them. As you remember, Lieutenant Lomax is no longer in the same position. He is now with the training academy.
City Manager's Report.
Sir.
I will say at the town hall meeting, several of you read my city manager report by commenting on several of the items I was going to talk about. But let me fix this. Okay, what I'm going to go over some things in the city manager report. At the end of my report, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Horrell. He has an update on the school budget. It's not anything for action, it's a reporting function, so I'm going to introduce him when I'm complete with this list. Here, so let me start at the top of the list. This Saturday, the tour to Lakeland, we've been long planning, long awaiting this date. It is coming up. It looks to be a very good turnout. There's already, I think we're expecting about 200 riders. There's almost that registered now, and I understand they get a lot of same-day sign-ups that morning. It's also in conjunction with the LEF fundraiser that day at the winery. The race will start and finish at the winery. Activities there. There's a phenomenal band playing at the winery that day.
They're not that good.
They're phenomenal. I believe they're playing 10:30 to 1:30.
That's 10:45 about, yeah.
Okay, so there'll be activities. There's a hot air balloon. Everything will be up there, so it'll be a fun day, fun event. Good day for a ride. Weather should be perfect. I've heard a 0% chance of raining as of the last night, so I'm hoping that'll be great. That's Saturday. May 21st, as Commissioner Gaelic mentioned, we're having a KLB-sponsored beautification project. We're going beyond just litter pickups nowadays, and this is actually going to be a beautification project. We're putting mulch down around the trees. There's 59 trees in that median. We're going to start mulching it that Saturday. I know there's a few volunteers, including Commissioner Gaelic. We're doing some prep work on Friday to get it ready. We'll have mulch out there that morning, and we will start at 8 o'clock. Go from 8 o'clock to about 12 o'clock Saturday morning. So anybody who's available and willing, come on out. We'll have water and some minor snacks. It's been a big item of debate. There will not be donuts. We'll look some snacks out there for everybody. May 20th, going out of order here a little bit. This is the Lakeland Chamber Golf Tournament. Details are found here on this poster for registration. They are still taking registrations. That should be a fun day. Hopefully no rain. Get a good day of golf that day. Also, just a reminder, when we set the calendar for the entire year, we moved the June work session date from Thursday to the previous Tuesday, 2 days early. So just a reminder that the June work session will actually be at the end of this month on May 31st. That's a Tuesday night. IH Park improvements. This will have a huge impact. Obviously, we've been waiting for these for some time. We expect construction to begin in about 2 weeks. The end date of construction per the contract is July 1. So they'll be working mostly through the month of June to complete all 4 of those improvement projects. We're looking at dates starting around the end of July, early August for our concert series. At that point, we'll kick those off and have a great fall round of events then. We've had our first solicitation permit issued. As you know, we had a recent ordinance passed setting aside the do not knock list. We did issue a permit yesterday. The permit is good for 10 days, 10 business days. The applicant was handed the do not knock list. We want to make the window short, the permit window short, because the do not knock list will change. In fact, if you see someone in your neighborhood, so they might prompt somebody to sign up for the list, We didn't want these permits to extend on for a long period of time, but a list could change. So 10 business days, get a copy of the list. If anybody who's on that list gets a knock on the door, please report it. That's a message to the public. But we'll be monitoring locations and whatnot. Is Representative Edward Jones as a way to introduce himself to the neighborhoods. So he will be out there.
Have we mailed out anything to make people aware of the do not knock list?
Not yet. We have not mailed it out yet. We do have another ordinance coming that's going to further define the permit process, put in far more restrictions that are in there now. And with that, in conjunction with that, we do plan to send out a mailing.
And do you know how many people are currently signed up?
Yeah, it's short of 600, I believe, on the list currently.
There's still a lot of residents that probably don't know about it.
Yeah, I know one neighborhood association is having an annual meeting coming up in the next week or so, and they plan to have a sign up.
They're, the Groves have theirs not.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Woodland Park and Miles notified them. They're going to have a list there for the residents to sign. They can turn into us, and we'll have probably several at those kind of events. 516, okay, 516. Then also the big secret that's no longer a secret, Marco's Pizza, that'll be moving in next to Starbucks. And I don't know how many people have been to Marco's Pizza. This is kind of a funny story, a personal story. I was in Gulf Shores 2 years ago and just happened to, a family vacation, just happened to stop by any old pizza place near our place, and I happened to Marco's. Best pizza I ever had. And then not too long ago, I saw them pop up in Germantown, right near the Saddle Creek area. And now they're coming to Lakeland too, so phenomenal place. They do have tables there. It's not just a pickup and delivery. It's actually a sit-down restaurant. You can sit down and eat there. Phenomenal pizza.
Alan Johnson's email earlier this week said he was looking for pizza contacts to feed pizza to the bikers as they arrive back at the winery. Is there someone they could call and see if maybe they'd like to introduce themselves to the community by donating some pizza to our event?
We can try. Put a little pressure on them. But that's it for my report. If any questions, if not, I'll turn it over to Dr. Portal.
Commissioners, do you have any questions? Questions, sir?
Give me just 1 second.
Also, while he's doing that, can you announce how to sign up for that do not knock list if there's people in the audience that may not be?
Absolutely. Do Not Knock list is on the website, front page of the website. You can go on there, click the link, fill out a simple form. You'll be on the list, and if a solicitor has a permit, they may not knock on your door. So if you do not want solicitors knocking on your door, sign for that list and be covered.
Okay. Good evening. I appreciate you guys giving me just a little bit of time to the Board of Commissioners. I want to present just some highlights from the Lakeland school system budget for 2016-17. This has been approved by the Lakeland Board of Education, and as you know, this is a part of the overall City of Lakeland budget. Jessica likes to say, you are the ultimate budget authority. I think that's how she keeps us in our place. When I talk about my budget, she says, well, we are the ultimate budget authority. And that's true. And so we appreciate your ongoing support. But I did want you to be aware of just some of the changes that we made, and I feel like they're enhancements of our budget, so you can kind of keep up with that process as the years go by. The assumptions that we're using for this year were that we're projecting 910 students. This, along with some enhancements to the funding formula that the governor uses, or that the State Department of Education uses, will lead to a revenue increase of about $500,000 and almost $600,000 over last year's budgeted revenues. We are using a maintenance of the current salary schedule with the step increases that were already in place, and with almost, in fact, no exceptions that I can think of. These are the same salary schedules that were adopted from Shelby County Schools. We are also maintaining the current staffing at the school and the central office, with the exception of those exceptions that I will share with you. But there are no enhancements at the central office. And we continue to enjoy our offices in the back of City Hall, so thanks again for that. I like to throw that in every once in a while. And this also assumes our current fund balance, and this is from last year's budget, of $621,394. So at the end of last year, that's how much we were able to put in our reserves. I do, again, just as a matter of reminder and kind of public education, if folks don't know this year the amount of direct contribution, and I want to say this does not include capital funding. Obviously, we were the beneficiaries of a large capital allocation from the city of Lakeland, but as far as our operating fund, this year's estimated amount based on the 15-cent property tax equivalent that the city of Lakeland gives to Lakeland School System will be $474,000. And I just say that to note we are not requesting any amount beyond that. There would be a procedure to do that. And this is the third year in a row. I just want to note that we're not asking for any money for our operating fund beyond that. The enhancements to our budget this year, based on estimated growth, we are increasing the number of teaching positions from 49 to 52 in the budget. We will not fill all those if we don't have to. We've already hired one teacher that will be necessary for growth at a particular grade level. We'll be ready if on the first day of school we feel like we need more, but that's as far as we're going. That's about a $73,000 effect on expenditures. We did change, we added a strategic compensation plan for teacher performance that rewards teachers that are performing at a high level. We feel like this is an incentive in recruiting and also retaining teachers, and the maximum effect on expenditures would be about $30,000. We did decide to add a one-time move-up for teachers with advanced degrees on the existing Lakeland School System salary schedule. We were not recognizing advanced degrees for teachers we had hired since the starting of our school system. We did decide we wanted, rather than have a second lane, we would do a one-time move-up to recognize teachers that either have or attain advanced degrees. Our biggest change probably, in fact, in terms of things that we think will impact instruction at the school, is we're going to increase the number of regular ed assistants from 3 to 6. We have the teacher and the board clapping for that. That's something that had been diminished in the last few years of Shelby County schools. And when we asked the teachers and the administration of Lakeland Elementary what would make it easier for you to reach kids, they said we would like more assistants, even more than smaller class sizes. They said they'd rather have more assistants. So this is something we can do with relatively little financial impact that's going to, we think, have a huge impact on both morale and, we hope, student performance. We are moving from a part-time nurse model to a full-time nurse, and adding those additional hours will be about $24,000. We currently have a coordinated school health coordinator that serves in kind of a dual role. As we shift into a two-school system, that one coordinated school health coordinator, which is entirely state-funded, I might add, that's a grant-funded position, will oversee both positions. So in anticipation of for that, we want both schools to have full-time nurses. We're going to go ahead and make that move this year. We are adding, and this was only added after we got the money from the BEP enhancements that were signed into law by the governor. We are adding a non-recurring, for the time being, longevity stipend. Most of our employees will move up a step on the step step system, so they'll move up on their salary schedules a step. We have a number of individuals that are maxed out their step schedule, possibly some time ago, maybe as many as 10 years ago for teachers that have been there for a while. We did want to recognize that. That money was intended for teacher salaries and benefits, and so we are recognizing those teachers with a 2% longevity stipend. We're not making that permanent because we want to evaluate our budget again next year as we move into a two-school system, and also just I want to acknowledge that our teachers are the highest paid teachers in the state, as are the teachers in Shelby County and in the municipalities. So, but we did want to recognize those teachers with that money that was intended for salary. Yes.
How the other municipalities, are we the highest compared to Germantown and Collierville?
Everybody's pretty much held steady. I think if you look right now, I think everybody's right about the same. We all kind of eye each other warily, and nobody wants to get into a salary arms race, when in fact, part of what the state is trying to do is equalize salaries, and when you're at the top and the state's trying to equalize salaries, you know, that means either this or this, but it doesn't mean this. So
Shelby County is the highest in the state?
Yes.
It's been that way for quite some time, too.
Yeah, and for a long time, and Mayor Bronco will know about this too, for a long time, certain counties that were considered to be in urban areas got additional funds to help basically compensate for the fact that it takes more money to hire people in urban areas because the cost of living is higher and you've got more competition, it's harder to do. The state is gradually reducing those kind of extra dollars that systems like Shelby County and thus Lakeland now, because we're funded through Shelby County, get. So that's why we're keeping a close eye on this. Yep. All right, I did request and it was approved to pay some expenditures from fund balance that have to do with anticipation of opening the new school. I have interviewed for and soon plan to hire the principal of Lakeland Middle Preparatory School. And would like that principal to be able to hire an assistant principal to have 1 year to spend getting ready for the start of the school system, so that the first day that those doors open, everything is in place that we need to hire. That'll be a great help to me, certainly, and a great help for that principal. And I think we'll also give the community an opportunity to get to know and work with that principal and his staff. So that's at a cost of $239,554. As I think you also know, we have we've signed a new interlocal agreement with Arlington Community Schools. We feel great about this interlocal agreement and what it means for Lakeland and also what it means for Arlington. It is an enrollment-based agreement, so there's no particular timeline. The last agreement was a 7-year agreement, and this one is triggered by certain population triggers. The previous agreement had a clause that said there should be a 3-year notice and that you pay a certain amount of money if you did not give the 3-year notice. And so we'll pay 2 years of this. It's almost $100,000, and we're also paying for that out of fund balance. So I do want to note again, that's not coming out of additional money that we're requesting. That's coming out of savings that were realized last year. So the total request for from the fund balance for this year is $339,671,000. I also want to mention we will not request a tax anticipation note from the city for the 16-17 school year. Again, just to go back in time, in our first year when we had zero cash flow, we requested a $2 million basically bridge loan. We used $1 million of that to get started. This last year, and Jessica just told me this and I've forgotten already, this last year we requested about $300,000 and did not use it at all. This year we're not going to request any. So we're in a situation where we're now, fortunately, self-sustaining in terms of cash flow. Just a couple of dates. Our bid opening on the new buildings May 19th. The groundbreaking will be May 26th. Our anticipated construction start is June 1st, although that's just an optimistic kind of best case scenario. It'll be sometime within that early June period. And the school opens August 2017. That was incorrectly reported in I think the Memphis Business Journal. I saw a little blip where they had that wrong, but I just want to note that has not changed. That is August 2017. So if it's appropriate, I'll ask if there's any questions for me.
Commissioners, any questions?
I got one thing.
Yes, sir.
Go back, I think it's 2 slides back. What is the total amount of money as far as the budget from last year increasing to next year? How much is the total?
Our total
Yes,
budget, I think all the way from the beginning, like revenue?
yes, yeah.
Got the, let's see, well, it's an increase of almost $600,000. If I can pull it up on the separate thing, I can tell you what the our total budget is kind of what you
Well, I mean, how much are you increasing from last year?
We're increasing our total general fund budget of about $600,000. That's mainly from the addition of students. We've got more students. So last year we were planning on, I think last year's budget was built on 860 students. And this year's budget is built on 910 students. So there's funds there. But then the per student amount from the state went up a little bit based on these extra salary enhancements. So that's where that's from. None of, again, just to be clear, none of that's coming directly from the city of Lakeland. These are all additional funds coming from the state.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, and that's your revenue side. Your expenditures are going to go up a little bit more, just simply because you got the assistant principal and the principal you're
Sure.
bringing and stuff like that.
Yeah, we submit a balanced budget
I'm using something
every year.
Yeah, for blood balance. No, I
Yep.
appreciate that. I just wanted to make, I guess, create a little extra emphasis on the fact that the tax anticipation rates, there was a lot of confusion about that for this first 2 years in operation. They're not living within their means, or creating another tax. They didn't understand what that was. And so essentially, that was a short-term loan between the city and the school system because they didn't have the revenues at the time. Just getting started, they didn't have the revenues at the time because the state funding didn't come in until your October, November timeframe, and you've got a couple of months of school there. That you got to pay salaries and utility bills and so forth. So you have expenses, and so they got them past that. They paid the city back, right? They got those state funds in, so they returned that money to the city. There's a lot of confusion about that, but it's only because of good stewardship that you can start a school system from scratch, and then essentially its third year in operation, not have this need continue. I mean, that's amazing. That speaks very highly of the job y'all have managing the school system. I think that's worth noting, worth emphasizing. Also, the fact that you see these additional expenditures on to promote retention within your school system. The focus on school health with the nurse, student health. Your incentives also will help with recruiting high-quality teachers, rewarding high performance. Your money's focused on the students, the classroom, the place where it counts. It's not. You could easily say, okay, I want a coordinator this or coordinator that up here at City Hall, but instead you're focusing your money on the classroom. That's going to produce quality. We've seen it for teacher assistants. That's something that the Shelby County Schools, when I was on the board, was anticipating having to cut one year because we had, funding cut from the county, but we actually cut other things. We shifted our cuts other ways and focused that money in the classroom to pay. We saw, high performance, we believe, because those moves focusing the money in the classroom. And so I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with what y'all doing.
Well, we appreciate this board's support.
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
So since we did not test this year,
Yes.
what will those incentives for high-performing teachers be based on? What are y'all going to look at to base those incentives on, since there will be no test scores?
Yeah, the part of the incentive that every teacher was eligible for was the overall composite evaluation.
Okay.
They will still have an overall composite evaluation score. It just won't be weighed as heavily into test scores as it was. We did have a second component of that was based on only for tested teachers to get an additional bonus potentially. That part we're still having to work through. There's a couple of trains of thought on there. Those teachers spent the majority of the year preparing for those tests and doing everything they needed to do. So we're going to have to make a decision on that because that was kind of late breaking as we were putting the budget together. Great question.
Any other questions? Thank you, Vice Chancellor.
Thank you.
We heard an update from the LDC, EDC. Commissioners, do we have any other reports that you would like to share?
So, the LPC, I guess a long story short, because I know it will be complicated, but I thought we were just going to have just a couple of things we were going to talk about as far as neon signs and wooden signs. But then, Mr. Morgan, Bill and the board came up and said that there were several things that we had discussed and we hadn't addressed in the sign ordinance. So from there, it also was brought up that Tom was asking for a joint meeting, NPC and BOC. So from that, like I said, long story short, they were actually talking about starting over the sign.
Okay.
Any other reports?
I'm sorry. go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'll do my part.
No, I was just going to say, just directly related to that, we definitely want to take our time to produce a quality document. So appreciate that report on that. Look forward to it. We need a joint meeting. I'm sure the board would love to entertain. So,
Do you think we're going to need a joint meeting? Do you think they're going to use the current document as a guideline to kind of just start from scratch and go through it? Or do you feel like
What
they're
we're gonna do is
looking
have
for?
the joint meeting just to see where we want to go. We want to maybe use somebody else, Germantown, or Franklin, or if we want to start over and just see what we come up with. But that's what we would do. I think we would determine that in our joint meeting.
When is this joint meeting?
It hasn't been decided.
We had our parks meeting on Tuesday night, and every member is preparing questions for Chris to address towards the issue of whether to close a couple of parks or leave them open, and what our responsibilities would be if we were to close them. So we hope to have a report from him by our next meeting a month from last Tuesday. Work has begun at Plantation Hills Park to do some cleanup there, just to get it appropriate to, if people are to visit that park, that it is at least cleaned up and safe. Several of our members are concerned about Zadie Cool and some things that occur there on the weekends. So we're going to reach out to the cars that patrol through Lakeland to see if they can make that a routine drive-by spot, especially that one, so that if people do want to enjoy that park, they feel safer. It was asked that we publicize the fishing rodeo, which is June the 4th, since we will be meeting, I guess, again before that time. And youth baseball started Tuesday night, and Robbie is looking for volunteer coaches to help out with that program. So if you know anyone, please pass that request on to him. And that is it.
Any other reports, Commissioners? Well, Mayor, we are ready for public discussion, and here we go.
You can go ahead and continue on. I'm kind of enjoying this.
All right, public discussion, we have Paul Zacola signed up. Would you like to speak now?
Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Paul Zacola. Y'all know who I am. Ultimately, Parks is not on the board's agenda tonight, and I'll have to come back for that situation when it's necessary. But what I want to talk about today, this right here is my grandfather's watch. He passed away in 1978. I was a little guy, and I inherited it. Now my wife, she's looking to get a Coach purse, and I'm wondering if I should sell my grandfather's gold watch here to buy my wife a Coach purse. All her friends have one. Maybe a lady's opinion might be the opinion I need on that. But the reality is, I kind of made this story up to impress upon y'all. Tonight, before this panel, is the question is whether or not we're going to allow our mayor to enter into a contract to market and sell 100 acres that's just down the street from us. I read the resolution, and if anybody was to go out and read the resolution, it pretty much states that we're going to sell this land because it has no stated purpose, and we need an athletic ball field. That's pretty much what the resolution says. Now, I tell you, I'm not exactly sure how this city acquired 100 acres at that location over there, but I do know that it is in extremely close proximity to definitely the largest park in the Lakeland Park system. I think that a whole host of other things could be better done at that land than just to sell it. The people that got that land for this city before I got here, probably before any of us got here, maybe, I don't know, they got that land for some reason. And just because that land wasn't earholed for this or that, I can guarantee you that their reason for getting that land was not so that we could wait till it was convenient and we needed some money to build an athletic park and we just couldn't stave off the developers longer. I don't think that they got that. We had the city manager here, right? City manager. How much do we anticipate the sale of that property to generate for the city?
Assessed value 1.5 million.
Okay. I would think that there should be some kind of formalized hearing before we divest $1.5 million worth of city assets, so that people can have the knowledge that that's about to happen, and they can know where money's going. Because I tell you, to sell this property, and you know what, you're going to do whatever you want to do, but to sell this property without having that level of public input to fund that particular project, which I am not against. If we can afford that project, we should do that project. But if we cannot afford that project should not be done at the expense of our forebears, our forefathers, thinking forward and saying, how and why, how could we get land in the city of the center of Lakeland to have a municipal purpose? Because I tell you, we sell that land, are we ever going to get 100 acres right there in the city, in that part of the city? Are we ever going to be able to afford 100 acres in that part of the city? I mean, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Mr. Mayor, you'll be going off to future lofty roles, possibly. But I tell you what, there might be a Lakeland Performing Arts Center sitting right there. There might be some other good civic purpose other than a ball field. Now, right behind Vice Mayor Roman is a picture of the city of Lakeland. And on that picture, is that the seal of the city of Lakeland? I don't know. Is it? Yeah. I don't see a ball field up there. I see trees, I see a boat, I see a lake. You know what? If somebody wants to move to this city, it's not going to be because of a ball field. They're going to move to the city for the same reason I moved to the city, because I like seeing deer in my front yard. I like natural places. And to sell that particular piece of land in such close proximity to the major park in this community, I think would be a travesty. I'm not going to sell my grandfather's watch. But I tell you what, if it came down to me being evicted from my house, that would go. We're not in a situation where this city is about to be evicted. We're not strapped, at least ways depending upon who you ask and what the project is. We're not strapped so much that we need to start divesting ourselves of city assets so that we can make one particular dream of this community a reality. I can tell you, once that nature goes, it won't be back. It won't be back right there, I can promise you that. There is one city street, albeit going to be a large city street, that separates International Harvester Park from that parcel of land. That's why there's 10 acres on the corner. A crosswalk right there, allow people to go from one park to the other park. A subdivision right there would allow citizens to leave that subdivision and go over to our park. I don't think that that's what our founding fathers had in mind. I would just say a couple of things in closing, and that is that John Muir, who you may or may not be familiar with, he once said that no public space is safe as long as a man can put a value on that space. I believe at the time he came out publicly and stated that there were developers and mining interests that were extremely interested in a parcel of land in the Southwest. That particular parcel of land is now known as the Grand Canyon National Park. Now, I'm not saying we got a Grand Canyon over here, but I tell you what, we have something that the city can be proud of besides another tract of houses. That's just as simple as that. To the rest of the people on the committee, I would say that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing the right thing in spite of the fear. And I'm asking you to have the courage to do what is right for this community on this instance, other instances where we have put priorities in the wrong place. And I think we have to have the courage to look at our constituents in the face and tell them this was the right thing to do for this reason, and really have a compelling reason. Lack of that compelling reason, I think we have to demonstrate what the people that elected you want out of you, and that is courage to do what is right for them. And with that, are there any questions amongst you?
Mr. Mayor? I don't have any questions. I'll give a brief overview of my thinking on the 100 acres. I believe it was purchased from John Heineman. As I heard, I didn't hear this from the city. I knew this before I came here, but I believe he he was planning some type of a subdivision development there. The topography of the land, the difficulty of getting approval in that area led him to want to sell the land. The city said, hey, we'll be a buyer. It wasn't our founding fathers that bought it. It was the previous administration. Me personally, I don't think it was a great investment. But that being said, it is a nice piece of land for parks. So when we first came in, I said, hey, you know, a trail coming from IH Park could expand the bikes and a running path, because we had a lot of people utilize that park for running and biking and stuff. I even went as far a few months ago to talk to a couple of bikers about, hey, they'll come out and create the bike trails for you and maintain them and stuff. And I said, you know, we need to get with the city. There's a little area that's flat, that's clear, be a good parking area. We could gravel it or whatever and expand that, connect it with IH Park. So kind of the same idea you were talking about. Then you know, we start talking about the athletic fields and whatever. One of the things I think is a real big selling point is this, that you know, we really need a quality athletic program here in Lakeland. That does draw some residents. It does draw. I mean, I'm not saying it's the primary factor in someone's moving here, but I think those type of things weigh heavily on people's decision to move to cities. I think a healthy athletic program is good. And you made it clear that you're not opposed to a healthy athletic program.
Oh, absolutely not.
I know you're not. And so I do recognize that. But also, we have to keep in mind the city's debt. And so one of a couple of the things we're doing in this year's budget moving forward is trying to keep the city's debt down. And we'll go back to sewer fees, you'll hear in a minute, and stuff like that. Enterprise fund, try to keep our debt down for that enterprise fund, to keep our debt down for the city. You know, taking some of these assets that don't have definitive plans, that you know, and shifting those revenues to an area that's going to be useful, to be beneficial to our citizens, and going to draw new citizens, you know, more high quality citizens. So that's how we want to grow the city, and you know, creating pay-as-you-go funds, balanced budgets, operating, you know, in the black, and all the things that you would expect in this financially, you to be responsible financially. So that's kind of where, that's kind of some of the selling points for me is, you know, we got to look at these things to keep our city from going further in debt. The best thing you can do, the best way you can keep from going further in debt, stop borrowing money. And so we, you know, we're using grant funds on this athletic complex. We had some money saved up from fees that were in the kitty for parks and recreation that's going to be used on it. So between those and the sale of these assets, we're going to go a long way toward developing that field out without creating any additional thing to the city.
The question then has to go all the way back full circle, Mayor. And that is, do we need this athletic complex so badly that would we sell a piece of city land that we'll never get back? And is that a priority for the vast number of citizens in this community? That's really the question that you have to ask yourself. And each one of y'all have to ask yourself. Because I tell you, once you sell it, it's gone. If we need that athletic complex so badly, then there should be a referendum and a tax increase, and let's make this publicly known. If you were to ask a dozen citizens right now if they know whether or not they're going to sell 100 acres of land down there to make this dream come true, the answer would be no. But they may even support it, who knows? But if they don't know about it, beyond just the paying attention, which I have become acutely aware of the paying attention portion of this endeavor, then it's just not happening. I tell you, if we needed that badly, they're willing to pay for it. I can tell you, my son plays sports, my daughter plays sports, and I write checks to those individuals all the time. And you know why I write checks to them? Because they want to play sports, and I want them to play sports. If we need an athletic complex in this community, and I'm not doubting that it would be nice to have, then the taxpayers should foot that bill and say, hey, this is the direction this community wants to go in. And I say, as opposed to selling assets, these teams that we're going to have.
Mr. Secretary?
Yes, sir.
I made a mistake. I didn't give you a time limit when I first got up there. If you could, like, one more minute.
Okay. I tell you, we're going to put billboards in front of the city hall. We're going to put little pizza things on uniforms. And I'm just being silly here, but the reality is that taxpayers should be aware of what's going on, and not a select few that just want to sell city assets. One other question for the city manager, $1.5 million, right? What other city assets are liquefiable that would be that much money?
Are you yielding the rest of your time, sir?
I'm asking him a question, please.
He'll be happy to answer it, but your time is up now.
Okay, well, if that's the
He'll
way
answer.
it's gonna be.
He'll answer. I just want to make sure that
Okay.
you're ready to yield your time. If you're not, you still have the remaining of your time.
Are there any other assets that value that much that we could liquidate?
We have cash. We can liquidate cash. So
Well, cash is liquid, Mr. Vice Mayor, so we don't have to liquidate that. However, why do we sell the largest asset that we have to fund this? In a time of need, that might be a reserve that we can draw upon. I appreciate it before the dude wants to pull his gun.
no, you're fine.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Cole,
you know,
could you state your name and address for the record?
It's on the card. My name is Paul Zacola, and I live at 4175 Hadley Drive.
Could you hold on one more second? Commissioner Plunk had something to say. I don't know if he's expecting a response or not.
I was just going to say, how many times have we talked about this property where we're going to do something with it, and we couldn't use it because it was just like a worthless piece of property because we couldn't do anything with it. So I would think that $1.5 million would go a long way to maybe pave these roads of ours that are falling apart. But as far as going back to why we have it, this, I was on the board in 2005, and this land came up that, okay, we've got 100 acres of property for sale, you know, and then should we buy it? It was, that was the time was like, the economy was booming, you know. There was no reason, there was no reason to buy it. It's just that, hey, it's 100 acres, and we're going like crazy. At least they thought it was crazy. But, we're really moving forward, and so at this time, maybe we should buy this land, and then in 5 or 6 or 10 years down the road, then we'd have the 100 acres to do something with, And then they said, and it's not very likely that we're going to lose money because it was $1 million is what we paid for it. So they figured that if they just we moved on and looks at 10 years down the road, it's going to go up like $2 million, or $3 million, or $4 million. Then of course the economy fell out. So we're still from that time. If we can sell it for $1.5 million, which I kind of doubt that anybody's going to pay $1 million. So actually, we'd be lucky to get the money back, But if we can get $1.5 million, we behoove ourselves to go ahead and take the money because we really need some money for the streets. They're falling apart.
Commissioner Gallup?
I do. Jim, can you comment on the floodplain issues there?
Yeah,
As well as Mr. Zacola's question earlier. I don't see the question for you. Thank you for your time, sir. She's good.
Are you asking me out here?
No, I'm just saying, I think they're talking amongst themselves, but I'm saying
Okay.
you got to stand up there.
That's fine.
Yeah, the Garner Lake Breach area, Garner Lake Dam Breach area, covers about a third of the 100 acres or so. It runs along the creek on the east side of the property, about a third of it comes out. Over the years, there's been a lot of discussion of what to do with it. The one with the most traction was ball fields in that northeast corner, which is fairly flat. There's about 16 acres there. That's one of the reasons why we diverted away from it. It's only 16 acres, really usable area for an athletic facility. The rest, I think the best use over time to come up with is probably some more mountain bike trails to duplicate what we had across the street at I-80 Park, where we had 65 acres approximately of mountain bike trails. So other than that, there hasn't been anything specific talked about for that property or come up with. There was a town center study done back about 2004 or 5. I know this site was discussed as part of that study, but it was not recommended because of the topography and the difficulty in building on it, in addition to the breach area that covered a good portion of it.
Wasn't the breach area, they didn't even want to put the ball fields down there, correct? When Gerald Parrish was here, he was saying that do a lot of work to make it even adaptable.
It would be challenging. You have to raise the field some. You really couldn't put many permanent structures in there. Maybe a cinder block concession building, but I think that was questionable at the time. So it wasn't ideal for sure.
And on Mr. Sokola's question about any other non-cash assets that could be liquidated.
I'm not aware of any of that value.
Not that value, but you have the house that we're gonna.
Yeah, that's the house part of it as well.
Okay. My point to that was not that what do we sell instead of. My point was, why do we sell the most valuable asset that we have to build a ball field? That was my point to that question.
Thank you, sir. I don't see anybody else sign up for public discussion. Thank you for coming, Mr. Sokola. We will move on to seeing nothing under sewage commission business. Madam Clerk, consent agenda.
Consent agenda, approval of meeting minutes for previous meetings, special called meeting minutes April 7th, 2016, regular meeting minutes April 14th, 2016, special called meeting minutes April 26th, 2016, ordinance first reading amending the Lakeland Municipal Code regarding beer sales, ordinance first reading establishing regulations and guidelines for retail sale of alcoholic beverages and liquor by the drink, resolution adopting the Shelby County All-Hazard Mitigation Plan, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with a real estate agency to market and sell the city-owned property located at 9996 Memphis Arlington Road and parcel IDs L0150-00476, 477, and 478, collectively known as the 100-acre property on Memphis Arlington Road. Resolution amending the bylaw with the Lakeland Economic Development Commission. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Standard Construction Company Incorporated for the fiscal year 2016 street paving project. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Purpose Systems Incorporated for chemical vegetation control. Resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a construction agreement with BNC Construction Company Incorporated for the fiscal year 2016 storm sewer improvements project. Resolution to approve the purchase of a John Deere XUV 825i with state contract from Tennessee Tractor for use of the litter vacuum.
Thank you, ma'am. Can I get a motion to get this consent agenda to the floor?
So moved.
And a second? Second by Commissioner Plunk. Do we have any discussion on this? Seeing no discussion. All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Consent agenda passes. Next item, ma'am.
Regular agenda, ordinance final reading, amending the fiscal year 2015-2016 budget passed by ordinance 15-222 and amended by ordinances 15-225 and 16-233.
Thank you.
Move it.
Second. It's on the floor. Do we have discussion regarding final reading on this ordinance? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Ordinance passes on final reading.
Ordinance final reading, amending the official zoning map of the city of Lakeland by rezoning 5 acres of property owned by Kristen Sidney Choate located at 10494 Highway 64 from agricultural to C2.
Can I get a motion? Second.
Second.
Now we have a second by Mayor Bunker. It is properly on the floor. Sir.
Thank you. Tom Skegan, Planning Director. As you know, this is a second reading of an ordinance to rezone property currently owned by the Choate family. This property is located between Chambers Chapel and Colorado Road on Highway 64. They are rezoning the front 5 acres. To highlight what has happened, the Planning Commission did give a unanimous recommendation to favorably consider the reclassification. The ordinance did pass on the first reading, and what you have here is second reading and final reading. Do you have any questions for me?
Commissioners, do we have any questions?
I've got a comment, I just, I'm not gonna be able to support it simply. This is on Highway 64. It's probably an end cap for our current commercial use property, and I know it's got some challenges. With the property has some challenges. I think area that's developable, and there's a little frontage issue up front. 2064, but, you know, improving these commercial developments on septic, just something that's not appealing to me. I don't think that area is ready for this growth, and when it gets ready for this growth, I'd rather have an overall plan for the entire area where it really fits in, rather than just a hodgepodge development down a commercial corridor where I think it destines us to get the same results that you see on Germantown Parkway and so forth. So I caution commissioners as we vote for this, I'd like a roll call vote so I can document my vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Madam Recorder, roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dial,
Yes.
Commissioner Gallick,
Yes.
Commissioner Plump,
Yes.
Mayor Bunker.
No.
4-1.
4-1, item passes.
Thank you.
Ordinance first reading, adopting an annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017.
Do I have a motion to get this to the floor? Second by Commissioner Dial. Do you have any discussion on this?
Yeah, do you have a presentation? I'll
We
do
do.
it.
Sir.
I'm just going to give an overview and hit a couple of the discussion items that came up at our last meeting. Also, I want to point your attention to a handout tonight. This is a listing of the issues that came up last week as possible amendments to the budget. You talked about voting on the amendments separately, so it's provided a sort of a cheat sheet for you to go over those, include the bathrooms at IH Park, and then also the additional drainage improvements. Just to comment on these real quick. Cost estimates, the 125 is a little bit higher than we estimated last time, which seems out of this world expensive. But based on some recent bids that we've heard about in the industry, we want to make sure we hit the ceiling on that and hopefully negotiate a much lower cost, but that would be the budget amount that we recommend if we decide to put that in the budget for this year. Drainage improvement, same thing, 120,000, I believe would cover additional improvements than the one we have in there now. We do have enough room in the budget for one significant drainage improvement project. That would be the Woodbridge project. Has the most significant and severe drainage problem that we need to work on. There are a few others that are hanging out there, so this addition would allow us to do a couple of the other ones, and or at least one of the other ones. One more, the next most significant one. So have that. One of the other questions that came up last time involved kind of the general growth of government and how is our operation budget growing and why and where it's coming from. So I have a few slides to kind of talk through that a little bit in an overview fashion. After this, we dig into the details and then part of this that you like. So one chart that we provided in response to one of the questions about growth in government is this one. And what this is a look at all of our funds combined. So not just our general fund budget, but all of them. So including stormwater, state street, all of them combined. What you'll see here is a pretty significant uptick in the last couple of years when looking at that. So dipping, and a pretty significant increase last year and this year. So we want to explain that, why that is and where it comes from. Backing up for a second, one thing I do want to remind everybody of is this is a balanced budget we brought forward. So we're not dipping into fund balance at all. And that includes our new debt service payment for the middle school. This will be the first year in a couple of pretty significant capital projects as well. It is a balanced budget. We can see the growth of government over all funds. So I want to point out a couple areas that may help explain some of this. Looking at the general fund first. Again, the last slide was with all the funds combined. This is the general fund, and I moved it back to 2009 to show some of the fluctuations over time. Now, the general fund budget is the biggest one, of course, that we have. It's just over $12 million this year. This is in the general fund. So it started up just over $3 million in 2009. You saw it dropping down in 2012, the first year of the tax, the city property tax we had. Prior to that, we had no city property tax. Pretty significant dip here, and this is what I want to point out is sort of the beginning of the transformation of our operations here in the city. That's probably a good time. Is after the 2013 election, as you know, we did a lot of changes at that time. We reduced staff quite a bit. We reduced operations quite a bit. Schools were right on the verge of starting at that time. A lot of things happening in the city. As you can see now, it's been growing back up again, but what I'm going to show here in a second is how it's been growing back up, meaning that it didn't start up, we cut it, now we're building it back up to where it was. As far as the amounts go, I believe we are, but in a much different fashion. We mentioned personnel, I'll talk about in a minute how we're flipping the city staff, focus more on operations, diverting money more towards impact projects such as street repair, street paving, and those types of projects. This is a summary table of the general fund. Again, going back to the previous slide, sort of broad headings to show where the areas of growth are just within the general fund. This is, again, looking between last year and this year's proposed budget. I bolded the headings or the general departments where the growth is occurring. So going down the list, boards and commissions went up slightly. It's $2,000. Basically, it's for travel to a conference. As we mentioned, Commissioner Gaelic went to a conference last year, realized we didn't have enough budgeted for everybody to go to a conference. So if anybody wanted to take advantage of that this year, we did have money in there for that, so that's a slight uptick there. The next one, construction inspection, is a fairly significant increase there. We have talked about, given all the growth that's on the horizon with new subdivisions coming in, we really need one more inspector, and all the other costs associated with the new employee, including the vehicle, would be part of that. Economic development, which I believe has been a priority area, a large part of that increase, $23,000, is for the retail consultant. It's in the budget. GIS, a slight uptick, but that's pretty nominal for the overall budget of that department. Public Works is huge, obviously, $449,000 increase from last year. This is personnel, this is equipment, tools and equipment. As I mentioned before, we're looking at a complete overhaul of our Public Works department, as for the reason we stated already, to really improve the impact the city has on the citizens in the city as far as road projects, drainage projects, being much more mobile and responsive to the needs of the community. That's where it's going to come from, getting people on the ground that can do the work. That represents that big increase there. Senior Citizens Center increased a little bit. This also included building repair to the senior center, in addition to the request for a few more hours for the senior center manager. And then last, park administration down here. That, of course, includes the expenditures for the athletic facility. Now, if you look at the revenue side, we're not going to build an athletic facility if we don't sell those assets we talked about earlier. So this isn't going to come from any tax increase or any dipping into fund balance or anything like that. That would be if the property sell and we have that. That's where the park administration increase came from. A couple other high points. You notice recreation. There's been a lot of talk about recreation. That's actually going down from last year. There's been talk about growing our programs. We did that. We spent money last year doing that. This year, not so much. So we're not going to continually be asking for more money for recreation going on. But if you look at these bold ones, I think it really goes to our priorities and what we've talked about. Where we spend our money, where we grow in government. I think these areas, especially construction inspection, economic development, public works, and then the park athletic facility, I think it really hits a high point of what we're going for. And again, we're trying to, at the staff level, and I'll get into personnel in a minute, really add value to the staff where it's most needed. We've cut one position already in the office, another administrative position. 2 years ago, we cut several administrative positions, so we're continuing down that path to reduce staff wherever possible at City Hall, reduce costs there, so we can add it where it's going to have the most impact. And again, you see it here, Public Works being the biggest beneficiary. Another one of the individual funds that really contributes to the overall, I put all funds together, is the increase in state street aid. Another one that I feel like is one of our top priorities, and you see the increase over time, is pretty dramatic. Now, this would include all of our road projects, paving. It includes employees that are dedicated strictly to street repair. So you can see that's going up. I think this is, if we're talking about having an impact on the city, I think this is a pretty impressive chart. It shows we're putting money towards where it's needed most here and not in other frivolous places. Looking at personnel specifically, you see over time, let's go back to 2011. As far as the expenditure, it's pretty flat for the most part. Obviously, with the dip in 2015, that went too low. That's where we, again, I'll call it the start of the transformation. When we sort of cleared out the top end of City Hall without increasing the bottom, and then the increases in 16 and proposed 17, get back up again. A different staff, a much different staff. We're not just going back to what we had before. It's a very different staff. I'm going to demonstrate that by this. Let's go back a few samples from past years, 2010, 12, and 15. What this shows is the pay grade, the federal pay grade, and where the employees sit. So the grades are on the bottom here. Grade 1 is the lowest level, lowest paid employee. 15 is the highest. And this is the number of employees. Going here, for example, grade 5, we had 9 employees that year. So what you'll see is we had employees up. We had 2 at pay grade 14, 1 at 15. A couple other high ones here, generally there. 2012, very similar, even lost to the 3 and 4, moving up into 5 here, still very top heavy there. 2015, you see a dramatic shift in 2015. We no longer have any 15 or 14 leveled out back this way. You see a definite shift to the left or toward the lower end. We add in this year, in the proposed budget, you'll see the shift is continuing again with no 14 or 15 down here, and far more employees at the lower end. Now, you look at this and say, well, we're hiring the low-end jobs, the low-paying jobs. However, these are the guys in the field doing the work. So this is where our focus needs to be, again shifting the triangle or sides from this type of model to this one. I feel is far more efficient personnel-wise than what we had before. We get a lot more work done. We did a lot of planning and talking back in 2010 and before. But now I feel that we have the staff, we would have the staff in place to get the action done on the ground. So that's sort of a general idea of where that growth is occurring. I think it does hit the high points. I do think this budget is a turning point to be able to get us to those impact projects and really make a difference on the ground, be more responsive. As we talked about before, just in our field of public works and wastewater, we're not able to do much preventive maintenance, if at all. We have a lot of open work orders still. And we're trying to work down that list. I think the last count I saw about 96 open public works work orders, and more are adding every day. So if we divert it to another project, we don't cover any day, and any work orders that day, likely one was added, so that list is going to keep on growing. If we have this model, which again, as we talked about last week, having the 2 different crews, dedicated street crew and dedicated right-of-way crew, I think we'll get a lot more accomplished, work down the work orders, do far more maintenance to repair some of the things that we would otherwise have to repair in the future.
Thank you. Commissioner Young first, and then Walker second.
Are we spending all the money that we have this year on streets, that we allocated for streets?
We're ready to. We have the one project going on now, so we're spending, yes.
Everything will be spent?
Correct.
And how much are we taking to reserves?
In the current
End of this year, the target?
end of this year, it lists 2.5 million in reserves for the current year.
For the general fund.
General fund, yes.
I mean, some of our streets are really bad. And I don't know, that's just something that I struggle with is, okay, how are you taking some of this money and putting it in the bank, which you should, we want money in the bank. But yet, I mean, some of the roads are really kind of dangerous. So, I mean, that's a question to me. Should we be fixing some of this stuff and taking less money to reserve?
I think we all feel the same way 100%, so that's a great question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the difference is, right now, in the current year, we don't have that budgeted. So the current year, we're taking that to reserves. In the proposed budget, it's a balanced budget, so there are no reserves specified. Now, going back a year ago, when those decisions, were to be made, we were in an interesting place, not knowing exactly what impact the debt service would have in the middle school. I think we want to be cautious and very conservative from a year ago. In hindsight, now looking back, I think we're in an excellent position. We were cautious last year. Looking back, it's probably unwarranted because we had a nice surplus. We were able to handle that debt service payment and 2 significant capital projects this year and still balance our budget. So it's hard to go back a year ago and have the same comfort level. So, that was the time a year ago. Be very cautious and conservative.
But we made modifications to the general fund as well and to our funding. You can modify it.
Well, we can modify it, absolutely.
So, I mean, that,
Our time has sort of run out to modify this year's budget. We have to have 2 readings and it has to pass by June 30th and all the work has to be completed by June 30th. So we're kind of past that go with this budget year.
I mean, seriously, I drove around for the garage sales and our roads are atrocious. And
at state street aid fund. Because, you know, it's key. I think if you look at a couple of these graphs, and a personnel graph right there, where you see they were top heavy, and right there at the same time that they were top heavy, that 2012 time frame, look at what they were putting in the streets. You know, $200,000, which is a drop in the bucket. I mean, that's a joke. Couldn't fix my neighborhood streets for that amount of money, probably. I guess I think per lane mile, we heard some figure like $70,000 per lane mile is what it takes to repave a road, and you know, $200,000. They were top heavy here, funding 14, 15 great salaries and benefits, and so what we've done. Yeah, I came in and met with Jim and the administration this week on the budget because I was concerned about some of the growth that we see. You know, when you look at this thing from 100,000 feet, you look down and you think, wow, there's some growth there. But when you look at where the funding is going, it's going to go to you know, streets. A large portion of the increase is going to streets. You know, you have the personnel. We're shifting our priorities clearly from high-paid execs at City Hall to your employees that are really going to positively impact services for our community. So I think, you know, they're moving the city in the right way, and I believe in what this crew, Emily, Jim, and all y'all are doing, Jessica, what you're doing with the city. So I'm pretty satisfied with it. The only thing I really came out of our meeting concerned about was you know, the travel and and one employee, how they're structuring one employee group. I'll explain that in just a second. But travel, I'll finish with that slide. Travel in 2013, when we came into office, the past administration had $43,700, basically $43,700 in travel. So they're traveling quite a bit. Must have been nice. 2015, we got that down to $23,000. So that was almost half the travel budget cut. 2016, that came up $7,000 some odd increase, right? Mm-hmm. And then this year we're looking at another $6,300 increase on travel, so we're creeping back up in this proposed budget to where we were in 2013. Where the heck are we going? No pun intended with that.
Let me make a couple comments. What we found in one of the tables, actually just going to pull it up so you can find it, showing the budgeted travel expenses versus the actual spent. And there's actually been a pretty good difference between the two. And I think what happened in the past, and I think clearly what we've done this year, we're anticipating that certain employees, especially ones that have licenses and certifications that have continuing education requirements, have to go to some sort of training. Some are out of town, some are in town. Depends on the staff and what certification it is in. I always encourage all the employees to have one event per year. Most of those are local, especially the field guides and stuff. There's a lot of local events to go to without traveling out of town. But I want everybody to have at least some training opportunity every year to keep fresh in their area of work. I will say, do you have that chart up by chance?
Yeah, here.
Excellent. You know, it's very realistic that even though we budgeted that amount this year, we probably won't spend all that. There's a pattern in the past that we do not get there. Sort of you know, if everybody were to go to the conference that they're sort of thinking they may go to, that would be the amount that would cover it, but typically that doesn't go that high. This would be an area I believe we could cut back some, but I don't want to cut it too far back to prevent an employee from going for continuing education, whether that would be, for example, AICP, that's the planning certification. I hold it, Tom holds it also. Usually to get the continuing education credits required at a national conference. towards attendance.
Okay, we got an idea.
Okay.
And I appreciate that. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I know the chairman will get impatient with me and call a question. But here we go. All right, so here's the idea. How about let's actually reduce our budget to those, to that travel where the certification requires updated certification. And then you come back to us, if you have one that someone wants to travel for continuing education, then you bring that back for a budget amendment to be heard, because travel is something like meals for public officials. You know, that it really strikes a chord with people, taxpayers. You know, down at the commission, you had free meals for the commissioners. You remember the uproar about all that. The travel is another one of those that really strikes a nerve. So if we can, if it's mandated to keep your certification, then I'll be for it in the budget. Other than that, short of that, I'm requesting this out. Can you draft that amendment for second reading on this thing? I'll go ahead and go along with this tonight, this first reading. The second reading, I want to know what's mandated to keep our certifications. That's one thing. And not saying y'all can't travel if you have a need. I just want to come before this board for justification for that, because it's a hot topic. Me as a taxpayer, you know, I like the Bahamas, but I'm paying to go there myself. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying anything. I shouldn't say that because that's misleading. The staff didn't do that. That's undermining staff. I apologize. The other thing is how we have the personnel structured for senior center and Parks and Rec. And I believe I discussed this with you in the meeting. We have a part-time person at the senior center budgeted that's changed over 3 times. I think that's a sign of something, but that person's changed over 3 times. So we have a part-time person for our Parks and Rec, so, you know, I really, at this point, if you think you can get by with a part-time person for Parks and Rec, I would suggest cutting the other. In a city our size, I don't want us to lose sight of reality. And reality is this, that there are some things in a city our size that just need to be volunteer services. They need to be volunteer services, and we don't do that. We haven't embraced that. You know, Arlington, the volunteers run a lot of these things for a long time. They have Parks and Rec program. They have volunteer. They have a booming Parks and Rec program. They volunteer. They have a full-time person in there now and doing very well. And I think there's some benefits to that. And so, but as far as these senior center things, I think some of this stuff needs to be volunteered until we get to a point where when you start looking at a budget like we've got, and you're not talking about putting substantial fund balance back. I mean, you're cutting it pretty tight with some of these increases. Then I think we really need to look at where we can try and watch our pennies, dollars to take care of themselves for the town. And if we're going to spend that money, on 2 part-time people, I think your money would be better served getting a full-time person. Getting 1 full-time person as opposed to 2 part-time people, I think you're going to have more longevity. We have turnover issues in those part-time people. I know I have it at my work. Same thing with part-time people versus full-time. I think you'll get more bang for the buck if you would go with a full-time person as opposed to 2 part-time people. If you're going to spend that money, not advocating to spend it. I think we really need to watch our pennies here. This isn't going to have a huge fiscal impact on this year, but you know, it didn't take much for us to blow a budget this tight. And so I think we really need to watch the pennies every year, but you know, it's especially important when you got them this close out. And going into a year we're paying our first school payment, it's a great sign that we're going to be able to come forward with a balanced budget without giving into a fund balance or anything like that. One solution to your road issue could be that we include in the budget some additional funding for road repairs, and we use fund balance to balance the budget, if we wanted to do that. That's possible. I'm not endorsing that. I think our increases have been pretty steady in street aid fund, and it shows that we'll continue to dedicate a substantial amount of resources. I don't know if we can do it all in 1 year, but we've gone from $200-something thousand up to approaching $1 million in our street aid. So I think, you know, we're steadily increasing that to the point where it really needed to be years ago, and you know, we'll get caught up there eventually. But Jim, tell me, why are we going with 2 part-time people, one in the senior center, one over here, when we've got turnover issues over there? And really, I believe personally it would be handled with volunteer services instead of going with either a part-time person here for Parks and Rec, or maybe a full-time, if we're going to spend money, a full-time person just seems like better value.
Yeah, we have an interesting opportunity right now because both positions are vacant. We do not have a rec coordinator at the vacant position, and we do not have a senior center manager. You know, it's being advertised now. We haven't interviewed. We don't have anybody yet. For that senior center data. I think so. We have discussed it at staff level since your comment at our meeting earlier this week, and we actually might have a pretty good solution along those lines to do that, because we do have an opportunity now because we don't have either position filled. What I might ask that we do is bring forward a proposal maybe at the next reading, because right now, again, we don't have 2 positions. We're not looking at getting rid of anybody or anything like that. It'd be a matter of combining positions and moving some tasks around. What's important to us is that, you know, the senior center has been growing steadily the last few years, even though we've had a lot of turnover. One was our fault. We took Kim out of the senior center and put her at City Hall. She was highly valuable, and I think the seniors are so mad at me for that. They loved her. We love her too. But I think there's an opportunity to keep that growth going while doing something creative like combining positions and still taking care of the recreation needs. I think that's a huge hole we have. We've talked about it some years before, and the amount of programs we have, the amount of time that Robbie spends up here at night and on weekends in addition to his day job, I think needs relief. And I think the program needs it.
So maybe if you go to a full-time person, I still believe you're going to get more bang for your buck, then you can position them over there for a certain amount of time to open the senior center, to do the things necessary. I still think we need to promote some type of volunteer program over there to relieve us of some of that responsibility. If we have a full-time person over there, so I think that they need to coordinate some type of volunteer program, so we don't have to have boots on the ground there as much. But
yeah, especially with it growing the way it is, you know, we don't, you know, to keep up with the growth, we have to have a full-time person there. We're not going to do that. So I think, you know, once the city employee stops here, the volunteers have to take it from there and move it up to keep it growing.
Part of their responsibility could be organizing the volunteer staff over there, which is part of the reason I think we don't have any volunteers, nobody really to organize them. So,
but if you're okay with that, I can bring back a proposal next time, because we haven't discussed it. I think there are some opportunities to make a change. The reason why I bring it forward in this budget, you know, at the time we had a senior center manager part-time, we had a need for a rec coordinator, so we brought in a half-time rec coordinator just to be responsible and conservative. But there may be an opportunity now, since both are vacant, to do some combinations.
okay.
Commissioner Galley?
Yes. This is kind of frustrating for me for a couple of reasons, because we didn't sit down as a group and discuss page by page. There's a lot of stuff in there that I actually have questions on too, and it would have been beneficial if we'd have done it like we did it in the past, where you could go through and the group could talk about things. So I'm kind of frustrated on the whole budget things, because now we have gone one-on-one and we have our own ideas. But, well, like the travel, I think that Jim is the person that needs to say yes or no, because he should know if this is beneficial or not. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, because I know that some of the other people in the past had chair positions and went on a lot of these conferences, but it is very important. I mean, Emily, I'm sure, don't you have to have some kind of travel and certifications? Jim does. You know, Jessica does. Robbie does. And I honestly don't think that anybody here right now is milking the system. So I would hate to say, I see people come up here, and if somebody wants to go to a conference in Nashville for a day, they have to come up and go to the board and get it blessed, when, in essence, I think Jim has the authority, to say yes or no, and that's my opinion on that. When you talk about the senior center, Kim is awesome, and she came from part-time at the senior center. So, to say that nobody's worked out, she did, only we saw some talent and latched on to her. I don't disagree. I think that you could combine the positions, and maybe they do work out in that office, work out over there. There's all kinds of things that could be done. But the one thing that I do disagree with, and I was kind of told, well, I wasn't told I was crazy, because that's probably evident, but they're paying them $13 something an hour, and I don't know that you need to pay somebody part-time that's doing senior stuff that much money. I think it's more the right person than, I don't think somebody's going to come here for 25 cents more. So I think that's a key issue. I also have some questions about the Chromebooks, because I know we discussed that a little bit. Is that necessary?
That hadn't been cut out of the budget then, I guess?
Yeah.
It's still in there as of now. That could be another amendment if you would want to discuss it. And the purpose for that, to go over that again, is to offer commissioners, something permanent up there to do that. Another fallback option might be to, keep the ones we have that are working and add a few more, so everybody has something to use. But it's your call if you'd rather just bring your own. If the ones that we provide run out or can't be updated or stop working, then you provide your own. We could do it that way. But the Chromebooks, we felt was a far better option than the iPads, just because what you're using them for, really accessing the agendas. You don't need an iPad to do that. You can get a Chromebook for a fraction of the cost to save money that way. For a long time, we were buying iPads here for years and years, and it's a pretty big expense.
And then, with the restrooms for the IH Clubhouse, I still think that is a viable thing that we should be doing, and I don't think everybody does, and that's good. I mean, different opinions make for better decisions. But I guess, again, I'm kind of confused, because we're going to read this, then we're going to come back, and I'm sure that probably almost everybody has something on one of these pages that they're going, they have a question about. So, because we haven't sat down as a group, all we've done is go over this and said, okay, and have Jessica read it. So.
That's a very valid point. The reason why.
Yeah, go.
And the reason why I bring that up is because this is our one time to speak to you as a solid voice of what our goals are for the next year. And our goals are represented in the way we spend the money. I will say, based on that, I sent an email to you and Jessica commending you that we talk about the vision of the city. Mayor's board sets the vision, so the city manager does. And this budget clearly states a vision of cleaning up the city as far as committing resources to streets, committing resources to cleaning, basically just overall beautification. So this, if you look at this, the numbers tell a story, and it's a story of a vision, so I commend you on that. But we just had a conversation about roads, and $1 million, as the mayor mentioned, is a lot of money, and it's 5 times more than we had 4 years ago. But it's a lot less than we need. So I noticed several areas in the budget where we're purchasing things. I mean, altogether it's $100,000, which isn't a big deal, maybe 140. But if our goal is to get the streets cleaned up, if our goal is to get the streets as safe and as good looking as possible, I think we all need to sit in a room and figure out our priorities for the year. And if those are our priorities, like I said, this definitely states visions, and so I see that you're taking it that place. But if we want to take it one step further and say, okay, any penny not spent with these particular priorities as their main objective, we don't want to spend it. The other question is, we had talked about $2.5 million going to the general fund. This is probably a crazy, ludicrous question. The mayor hinted at it, but I mean, what if we transferred that whole thing, instead of the savings, transfer that to the streets? I mean, we would be in the same position we started the year with, but now we've got $3.5 million next year to spend on the streets. Does that make sense? But the thing is rather than hashing this out one at a time, the five of us need to get in the room and figure out what are our priorities as a city. And what I would like to see is that we publish those priorities on the webs for all citizens to see that this is number 1, 2, and 3, so that when they come to us and say, well, how come we don't have X, Y, or Z? Well, as a group, this is what we all agreed on. Because what's going to happen, and I don't envy your position, any of your positions, having, I'm just going to say, 5 people dictate how you do your job. I don't envy that position at all. But this is our one opportunity. I know we have opportunities in the year, but rather than us nitpicking every other month with a different amendment, we'd like to see this, we'd like to see that, we need to sit in a room, come up with our priorities, list those priorities, and basically any penny not spent going towards those priorities in order, in our opinion, would be money not well spent. So I don't know if we're looking to, would you like to make a suggestion here?
No, I'll wait on you.
My suggestion was that we not necessarily go line by line, we can do that in the same meeting, but I would like to make a presentation to the 4 of you stating what I think are some of the priorities, and then you be able to do the same thing back, and we kind of hash out what the priorities are for the city. You know, we talked about trying to fix several drainage issues at one time. I mean, I've got a neighborhood that 3 or 4 houses flooded 2 times. And, you know, vice mayor lives there, the mayor lives there, we got to look them in the eye every day and say, hey, sorry, we're doing something else. We just buy it back. Anyway, I'm just saying, not that those are bad uses of the money. I'm just saying that we've got to be able to, in one accord, say, yes, Mr. Mrs. Citizen, we see that, it's priority 3. We estimate it's going to take 18 months to get to the 3rd priority. That makes sense. So I would recommend that we have that meeting, and if it required tabling this first reading, I would do that. If we can have that meeting between the first and the second reading, then we can continue on. Do you have suggestions, sir?
I think we should probably move forward with a second meeting. In years past, we've had a couple of meetings where we've gotten together and discussed the budget. It's been more than one. So having one to get an overview, one to get into the details, and then we'll meet privately with staff also, which I've done. I met privately with them, was it yesterday or the day before? Anyway, I met with them privately, and then we had that introduction as a group. I think coming back together as a group after each one of them has an opportunity, each one of us has an opportunity to meet privately with staff, we'll have much more informed discussion on the budget. So I would be in favor of us coordinating a meeting between the board again. As far as the funding goes for the streets, I know that is one of the problems with having $200,000 for road repairs in 2012 was that they were being neglected then, and they're in really bad shape now. So it may be that we need to get the engineer, our city engineer to, I know they did a road study and categorized or rated our roads based on their need for repair. Just come to us with those ratings, and we can determine what level of funding is necessary to get us to the point where we really need to be. And so if there needs to be this $2.5 million we're putting back in reserves this year, if there's a portion of that or all of that that needs to be dedicated to getting those roads to the standards that our citizens expect to make them safe, then we would make an educated decision based on the actual ratings of those roads and the lane cost per mile. And so if we can get that information for that meeting and coordinate that meeting, I'd be very much in favor. I'd like to further discuss my ideas. I'm there again on the travel. I'm not for cutting any travel that would be required for staff to maintain their licenses. So I know you mentioned that, but that was not my intent. I thought I made it clear that I would be in favor of them coming to us for approval if they want to travel outside of that. I think travel, there could be some reasons given, but that topic, I mean, the nature of it, because of the volatility of that topic. I want to, it's my instinct to protect the city from any abuse or misuse. And here's the issue. You might not have abuse. You might not have abuse or misuse now. I don't think you do with this administration. But I like to set a precedent that we live by, starting now and moving forward. That sort of stuff needs the oversight of the people, and we represent the people. And so any kind of travel, besides that's what I recommend.
Emily, can we also do the same with drainage? So when we get in the room and we look at the priorities for the streets, we can also look at the drainage and kind of see how maybe we take care of the top 4 streets, top 4 drainage. I don't know what it is, but that way we're looking at them together as opposed to 2 silos.
Yeah, I can put together the ones that I know of currently, but a lot of times what happens is they kind of pop up over the years. So I can't necessarily say, these are all the drainage issues. Like, for instance, the one that you had indicated in your email, I wasn't even aware that there was still a problem over in that neighborhood. So until I hear about it, sometimes drainage projects are a little different than paving projects. They're not as noticeable. But I do have some that I could put together for sure.
Yeah, a couple of things. I would like to get a priority list because I think it would be very beneficial. There's a lot of stuff that goes on, and even if you have a priority list and something comes up that's super important, that doesn't mean that you're not going to look at that priority list and it may take precedent. But if we all agree or had a list that the board voted on, I think that would eliminate, like Josh said, some of the issues that are out there and some of the chat that goes on, because that's just drama and we really don't need it. The other thing on the travel, I won't argue with you, but I will say my piece. There is a benefit for Jim to go to a conference that he might not be required to go, but he might meet 10 other city managers that have issues just like he has, that he can pick up the phone and call them and network with them. There is a benefit to some of those things. That's all I'm saying is, why can't Jim? Jim should be the one to decide, okay, well, Emily's going to an engineer conference. She doesn't need it for her licensing, but it'd be very beneficial for her to get to know some of her peers. That should be Jim's decision. That shouldn't be ours. Jim runs the city.
My input, and I'll respond to that if you don't mind, Chairman. My input is not, I'm not questioning the benefit of any particular conference. I mean, we're talking hypothetically about conferences here. I'm not talking about the benefits or drawbacks of the conferences themselves. There are conferences out there, I'm sure it can be beneficial to both of them. I'm just saying that the expenditure itself, it needs, in my mind, needs direct oversight of the citizens. That's what I believe. If it's not required for their licensing, the travel on public dollar needs direct oversight of the people. I don't mind if I'm going to travel somewhere as a mayor, or you're going to travel somewhere as a commissioner. I don't mind bringing my travel if I think it's justified before this body, before these people. I paid for some travel myself, and I asked for a pat on the back or anything like that. It's more of a donation to the city, but if I wanted to bring that for reimbursement, I don't mind bringing it before this body and hashing that out and let the people know, hey, the mayor is asking for reimbursement to travel such and such, and I'll defend my position on that if I deem necessary to do so. But I feel like the people need direct oversight over those type of expenditures. And you talk about Jim, and this isn't about Jim. Jim is a very responsible person, someone I personally trust and personally like. Jim could be deceived. We have one example of when Jim was deceived, and we prosecuted that a few months ago. We have another example of when someone was deceived and money was embezzled before he got in office, and you have this money out there and people can be deceived into. bring them before this body and let us hash it out, I have a hard time believing somebody coming to me and ask for travel is going to deceive all the members of this board. I just think it needs to be fleshed out here. I don't like travel, I don't like meals, don't like those little chrome things, or whatever those things are. I don't like this. I know that's $1,800 and it sounds small. I don't like that stuff, you know. I can bring my own little iPad, and whatever, if this iPad happens to break, I'll supply my own, I promise you. I'll take it out of my wife's hands, and I'll tell her, but I'll take it out of her hands, I'll bring mine. But that's sort of, those things, I mean, you know, you look at that, and that's $1,800 for those chrome things, and you got travel, if we can reduce this travel to those who just need it for their licenses, and you start pooling all these pennies, and you end up having, real money. I mean, you're talking about over a year, you got salary benefits for an employee if you wanted to. You got some money going into your fund balance. It's not millions of dollars, not even hundreds of thousands probably, but you got, some money, and every dime counts when you're starting the school system, and you're building parks, and you're doing road repairs and all that stuff. So I think we really need to, I trust the staff. This is about the question, staff. It's just, I think some of these things need direct oversight of people. That's one.
Very good. One comment on the travel. One distinction that I'd like to make, if you're okay with it, is the differences between conferences and meetings. A lot of times the conferences for continuing to travel, you plan ahead in advance. You register your hotel room early, you register for the conference. Meetings a lot of times will pop up. We go to Nashville, not often, but somewhat regular for different meetings that come up in the Capitol. So those types of things that may require an overnight stay at a hotel or something, I think should be separate. We just don't have time to come before you for an amendment for that. So there could be some cushion built in for those type of travel expenses separate from conferences and stuff. I would appreciate that. So that could be some of the discretion you talked about.
That needs to be decided by the board too.
Yeah.
It's not his decision or my decision.
Yeah,
So,
so
let me just talk one second. It sounds like we're going to go through this line by line anyway, so let's save the debate for then.
Yeah.
However, Commissioner Holmes is recognized.
Oh, thank you. I've got three things, I'll make it brief, but as far as the, I might be redundant, but my preference as far as the budget would be to have the commissioners look over the budget first, then have a meeting and go line by line. And then have our first up. The second thing is that the senior center, as far as, I don't think the volunteers are really the way to go, because we can't even get anybody to come here to a town meeting. Much less, get some good people to, volunteer. So I don't think that'd be the way to go. And then the other thing would be I'm definitely for the restroom at Age Park. It was my understanding that we're still going to have an opportunity to vote for the restroom on this year's budget. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay.
Is that all, sir?
Yes.
Well, I think what she's going to bring up is that we're required to pass the budget with certain timeliness, so it may be in our best interest to go ahead and pass first reading tonight, so that we can stay on task. I think that's what she's going to bring up.
And the way we can proceed, what we talked about last week, is with the list of amendments. I think, because the budget is what it is right now, and I prefer to go forward with the budget as is, and then add amendments and proposals like the travel, like the Chromebooks, the bathrooms, have all that for individual votes, and whatever else comes out of maybe a special meeting we have between now and second reading, we can add it to the amendment list, and then treat all the amendments and vote on those, and then incorporate those into the budget, the ones that pass.
Before we call for the question, on the first reading, I would like some guidance from the commissioners. Are we looking for a special work session in addition to the 31st?
Just a budget meeting, work session, do a round table like we did before.
Okay. Second. All in favor of passing this ordinance on first reading, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. First reading passes. Ma'am.
Ordinance first reading, amending ordinance 13-188 and ordinance 08-128 pertaining to residential sewer user rates.
Let's get it.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's properly on the floor. Sarah.
Emily Harrell, city engineer. Okay, so I made a presentation at the work session, and I have gathered some more information to present to you tonight. The first thing I want to bring up is that the sewer fund has to be self-sustaining. So that is the reason why we're proposing this new rate structure. We also are in need of some pretty significant capital improvements, one being the Clear Creek Interceptor, which with the approvals that we have on it is now at capacity. We cannot accept any more development on that with the current approvals. That's not existing flows, that's existing flows plus current approvals with other developments. We also have City of Memphis owns a portion of our sewer in Stonebridge. They're really pushing us to acquire that. This has been in talks for probably the last 3 years. So we're working through that now. So that's another acquisition of about 900 households. So I think they have estimated right now around $800,000. So that's sort of the reason why we're even bringing this forward. So based on the first change to like our normal sewer rates, I've kind of put together a little chart to show sort of what it would look like, the fees would actually look like to a resident. So right now, the current rate is the minimum is 6,000 gallons. We're proposing to drop it to 4,000. So you can see the first monthly usage at 4,000 gallons, that base rate is staying the same. Those people will not be affected. I also did a pie chart as well that kind of shows a breakdown of how many customers are affected by this. You can kind of see that, I mean, that's a pretty significant portion. 842 customers of the somewhere around 2,500 customers that we have. At 6,000 gallons, the rate will go up to $38.18 from the $31.50, which is currently they're charged just the base rate up to 6,000 gallons. So if they used the 4,000 gallons and then the additional 2,000 gallons at the CCF rate, the proposed CCF rate, they would raise their rate to $38.18, which is a difference of $6.68. And you can kind of see how it increases as it goes down. And so the dark blue is the 4,000 gallon rate, and then it kind of goes counterclockwise around. So you can see as the usage gets larger, then the amount of residents it's affecting gets smaller. So that's sort of where we came up with this rate change anyway, is by looking at how many people we were affecting. We shifted minimums and the CCF rate, and just really did a hard look at it to make sure that we weren't affecting too many, but we were able to get our revenue, what we needed to be able to put this new interceptor in as well as acquire the Memphis assets without going into debt. This would be a pay-as-you-go program. If we did go into debt, then we run the risk of having our base rate increased by the state, and that's something that we don't have as much ability to change as in the way that we've structured it now. If we get to a point where our revenues are coming in, our debt has decreased, we've already installed these things, and our treatment plant gets paid off in 10 years, we have the opportunity to reduce that rate. Another thing that was brought up was commercial. We did look at commercial development, but we only have about 35 commercial properties on sewer. So by raising their rates or adjusting their minimums, we're really only affecting 5 really high, it's doubling their rate significantly. And I sent you all some examples of that just to show you what they're paying now and what an increase it is to them. So I did want to bring that up. From the development end, I am still considering impacting the development fees in some way, or possibly having them construct it in lieu of a payment, which is another method. If we had to construct it to a certain point, then they could possibly construct it to tie in. So that's some things I'm looking at, but with the development, that's something that will come in probably after the fact. Development fees don't come in until the development agreement is signed and executed, and we're gonna need the money before that if we're gonna do it as a pay-as-you-go. So those were some of the highlights. If you go to the next slide, Jim. This is the Fairway Meadows. And the reason why Fairway Meadows was looked at, they haven't had an increase since 2008, and their rate is nowhere near what the rest of the Lakeland residents are paying. And it really needs to be brought back up to that level. So the way that they're set up is completely different than the rest of Lakeland. Right now with our agreement, it's a 70-30 split with Memphis. So we set the base rate, and then Memphis collects the 30% on top of that. So with our new agreement with Memphis, we will go to a different rate structure. They will start charging us by the CCF. We will collect all of the sewer rate, and then we will pay Memphis what the usage is for that whole area, is how they're going to set it up going forward. So for now, this is what the rate structure is, but it will change on our end. The Fairway Meadows rates will not increase, but from our end, the processing of the money will change. We'll be charged by MLGW by CCF. So we want to make sure that before that happens, we get them lined up with within the same realm as everyone else is paying.
How many people are in Fairway Meadows?
Now that's the Stone Bridge is the 900. That's what we have not acquired yet. I can't. That's too small to see. The Stone Bridge area is the blue. See with all the little red dots, the blue.
Yeah.
That's the area. That's Fairway Meadows.
That's the one that's
I can't.
1150.
It's this area. This is the area that's being affected. That and then this little piece here. It's what's affected with these new rates. All of the green area is what we will be acquiring. That's the 900 and some odd households.
265 versus.
Okay.
Is it Fairway Meadows? Is it 265?
For clarification, before we do our discussion, are you saying that with your proposed changes, it's a pay-as-you-go? So if we don't adopt your proposed fee structure, we have to change it in some way or go into debt, but we have to raise it in order to not go to debt.
And to be able to construct the interceptor and acquire these Memphis assets.
Okay.
Right now, the sewer fund operates in a positive value, but if we are to take on these new larger CIP projects, we will not be able to. That's why this rate increase is proposed. Without going into debt, we want to be able to do these projects as a pay-as-you-go.
Yeah, and one thing I think it's important to point out is this was a fund that, in my opinion, was severely mismanaged. And they have a flat rate on this thing without an escalating charge for CCFs over any minimum amount, with the rate. So you had Collierville, Germantown, Bartlett, all these different cities that had, these base rates and a certain gallons of water were provided within that base rate, and over you paid by the CCF for that water treatment. Lakeland didn't have that, and which is odd. It's odd to structure it that way, and really, it's really got us in the situation we're in. This is one thing. I got a little indigestion. I'll be honest with you. I got a little indigestion because the sewer fee thing. It upsets me a little bit because I've pushed for a while for us to make this move. A while meaning maybe we could have avoided some of these charges, started accepting these rate changes, or the rate structure changes earlier, and maybe avoided some of this. But I feel like we're behind the curve on this because of the way it was managed for years. And it's an enterprise fund, and it's governed by the state. And so you take on debt, it's like you said, you take on debt, they increase your base rate. You can't, it's not, there's no, it takes away a lot of flexibility there. Or you pay as you go, which is my preferred method of moving forward, pay as you go. And you do have some flexibility, but I mean, there's no way around this. And we're raising this rate on this enterprise fund, have absolutely no choice. And it's a direct product of just mismanagement. It's terrible mismanagement in my mind. Lack of foresight on our predecessor's part. And man, I knew this day was coming, and it didn't make me happy at all, I can tell you. Thank you.
Do you have more?
Just those two.
What's Bartlett, you said Bartlett's minimum was 2,000 gallons, or? Yeah.
Yes, there's.
What was Arlington?
I did not see, I was looking on their website, I didn't see that Arlington had a minimum. I think theirs is just a straight CCF rate is what I looked at.
So it's just like a $30, or is it by CCF? or-
CCF. And the CCF measurement is because they're also,
But how much was it per CCF? I mean, was it like $5 per CCF, $1 per CCF, or?
I didn't print that out to bring it. I can forward that to you though. I do have a spreadsheet of it, I just didn't print it out for tonight.
I guess my concern on a lot of this, and I've been pretty vocal on it with you, I mean, not mean, but, asking a lot of questions, is that I went back and I asked people in my neighborhood, and I asked people, that live in Lakeland, and maybe teeny weeny percent use under 4,000 gallons. And it seemed that the 6,000 was a better match for the residents, because when you said that, 842 use under 4,000, well, 1,608 use over that. So that's going to mean that those people are going to have an increase, which, hey, if you're using it, I get it. But would it make more sense to have, I think together those two are 1,546 households, and then go up? Because you're not stair-stepping the 1,150 that hasn't, and hey, it's not their fault. They didn't know that they weren't being charged properly.
Right.
But you're stair-stepping them up to 17 something, and then to 23. I guess I just have questions about a lot of math. I mean, how much money are we going to make on the Fairway Meadows homes?
It's only about 5,000. It's not a whole lot because we don't have as many households there. Now, we did look at leaving the minimum at 6,000 and just raising the CCF, but it didn't generate enough revenue. We were generating like $92,000 additional revenue, and with this rate schedule, we're going to generate $216,000. I mean, we did look at some that were even more. One of them, I don't think I have it calculated now. One of them almost doubled it. We were going to lower it. We looked at a situation of lowering it to 2,000 and raising it to, but that just affected way too many people. It was like 90% of the households would have seen an increased rate. So we felt like this got us to the revenue that we needed to be at without affecting, 90%. We cut it back to 65%. We tried to find sort of an even playing field there because the purpose of the rate increase is so that we can afford to do a pay-as-you-go for these CIP projects, and the fact that they're very high-dollar projects. The Interceptor without right-of-way, just construction, is around probably $2.7 million, and then we're looking at a little under $1 million for the Memphis acquisition. So that's what we had to look at when we were adjusting these rates. Is we need to get a certain amount of revenue to even make it worth doing.
I mean, I talked to people in Germantown. I asked a bunch of questions. They don't pay near what we even pay.
You can't really look at each individual municipality's charge because you don't know what their infrastructure. I mean, Germantown's infrastructure may be a lot older and it's already paid for. I mean, we're still paying a debt service payment on the plant. We have that for 10 more years. That's $500,000. They have most of their sewer infrastructure and interceptors and all that because they're a much more mature municipalities. So that's why you can't really compare, just like Commissioner Dow last week had her utility bill, which was a Memphis, some of the Memphis owned, and it was $8 and $10. Well, that's because Memphis has a lot more users than we do, as well as an older, system that's paid for.
If those people do come over, and I know that's one of the things that you're talking about doing, being that from Memphis, some of those people that live over there are older. They count every penny. I mean, they're gonna get increases of $20 or more a month.
Yeah, that would have to be stepped in, we would have to step those people into that rate as well, once that happens.
I guess I just have a lot of questions, because it wasn't even, and I ask a lot of people in my neighborhood, it wasn't even people with 5 kids or a pool or this. There were people with 2 people in the house, and they used, more than 4,000 gallons.
I meant to pull my bill up and see, but the report, I think, that we get from MLGW is CCF, but it's got 4 significant figures. So is on the MLGW bill actually gallons, or is it CCF?
Oh, it's CCS, but it was over.
But
most people just took a snapshot and sent it to me, because they didn't know what I was even asking and why. But I said, hey, I want to be educated on this so I can talk about it.
Right.
Because it is going to impact, 3/4 of the city, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter's she's like part mermaid, I think. I'm in trouble,
So,
How does how does our cost per gallon compare with, frankly, at the end of the day, we just gotta pay the bills, and this is how we gotta do it. But at the same time, it seems like if you're doing rough math, this is either 6/100ths of a penny or 6/10ths of a penny per gallon. If you go to the grocery store, it's like $1.80 for 20 ounces. It seems like just overall, we're getting a really good value per thousand, even regardless of who we're comparing to. How do we, and as far as countrywide, do you have any idea of where we are as far as put down? I understand the impact to the citizens, but it looks like this is still a very good bang for your buck.
I'm not very familiar with sewer rates across the country. As far as water, we definitely have a lot lower rates because we don't have to treat water as much, but on the sewer rates, I'm not sure.
Mr. Chairman, across the country, I'm not familiar with it either. I'll tell you this, that Bartlett's $10 charge, they're 2,000 gallons, $10. So they're a third of our base rate, only half the water. So we're 3 times as expensive for twice the water here. So locally, because of our size, we're small. We don't have a lot of payers that pay into our system like Bartlett does or Memphis does or something like that. That's what really impacts us. We look at all this stuff, and so you got to have a number of payers. But I think on a nationwide scale, I think if you looked at a nationwide scale, Jessica might have something to add there. But on a nationwide scale, if you look at that, we probably, as an area, are much lower. I know we got better water, man. National.
I just wanted to maybe shed some light on how everyone calculates their rates, whether you have 2,500 customers like we do, or you have 10,000 or a million. The way rates are calculated, you put in all of your budgeted expenditures, and then you assign your fixed costs, things that are not going to change, and then you have your variable costs. Well, your fixed costs for every system that assigns a rate have to be covered by your base rate. So you take your fixed costs divided by the number of equivalent units, or your customer, essentially your end users, and you get an annual cost per unit, and you divide by 12, and that gives you what your base rate has to be. So that's what every municipality is doing when they set their base rate. And then your variable costs then are made up by your CCF rate, anything additional to your base rate. So it really does come down to how many users we have. Even though we have 12,000 citizens and over 4,000 households, we have 2,500 equivalent. We have 2,500 customers paying for the entire system. No matter what other municipality you compare it to, I know that we're all setting rates the same way.
I think the issue here is just looking at creative ways of getting the financing done. Do we want to shift, where do we want to shift it? You had mentioned from a commercial point of view, we could possibly be doubling somebody's water. When you're talking about cracker room, going from 700 to 1,400, is that, I mean, how does that impact that overall? I don't know. Do we want to look at other formulas, if you will, of coming up with this money? And I assume you put together your best, that's why it's in front of us. But do we want to ask her to look at two others and we choose one of the three? Or I would personally say we go with her best. But at the same time, I feel like the conversation is about, is this the correct place to put the burden? Does that make sense?
How many, I guess, commitments do we have that aren't using the intercept, or using the system? I mean, that's a lot of the issue, right? Because we've got commitments from, and approvals, so if we would get more approvals and they would start using it, we wouldn't have capacity. So how much approvals that aren't really using the sewer are affecting this? And I don't know that I said that right.
Well, okay, so just on the Clear Creek interceptor side, which is the one that we're proposing to actually build a full interceptor, there are two developments that are, one is just recently expired and the other one is coming up for expiration. So that is some capacity that could be sort of relieved if we don't, give them an extension on their approval. We have gone to where, like the last one that I brought to you guys, Chapel Woods, I think it was, last month, we just gave them a 1-year approval. So that we're not giving these 3-year approvals plus on the sewer because we're in such a tight crunch. Now, the other ones that have current approvals that aren't up for several years, we don't really have a choice on those. But we do have two developments on that interceptor that are, well, one is paid his development fees and is moving forward and plans to submit in 2 weeks the next phase to start going through the construction plan process. The other one, I've been told Kensington, they're ready. They were just kind of waiting on the weather to clear up, and then they'll be getting started in the next couple of months. So those are being built, but the only ones that we really have a leeway on are these two that are kind of outstanding. I think it's an additional couple hundred lots or something equivalent. So maybe one more might allow for one more development. But we're so close that if these approvals were to develop and we didn't have this interceptor built, then our pipe is at capacity. We don't have room for.
I think we've exhausted. I think, do you have comments?
Well, I do have a question. Can you go back to some of the people with approvals and say, you know what, this is the issue. If you want to keep your approval, then we need to charge a fee. You can't do that?
I mean, they have, the people that have that have already come, they got the approval at the time.
Okay. Right. That's a good question. And so the only thing that we can do is raise this and charge fees when we start doing other developments.
I mean, we looked at pretty much every scenario because I definitely am not wanting to come in and try to raise rates either, but there's just really this is the best alternative that we came up with. Jessica and I sat down and we've gone over this thing, and we've gone over it with them, and this is really the best scenario that we can come up with to fund these projects and try to minimize the effect the best we can to the residents.
I know this is a hot topic. I know all of us that were here last week left with a headache and probably a stomach ache, because no matter what you do, the people on the south side that have had $11 rates forever are going to be mad because theirs is going up, and the people that have been paying $31.50 are like, why are we paying $20 more than the people down there? So, plus we'll probably have an increase, so nobody's going to be happy about this.
No, I mean, I looked at this, I challenged their approach to this the other day, and there's no choice. There's no choice, and I'm telling you, it's terrible mismanagement from the time of this thing. They should have had this rate structured differently years ago. And if they'd have done that, then you might have enough surplus there, just edging by, paying the bills, living paycheck to paycheck, just a terrible mentality. But anyway, so we're saddled with this baby.
Would we have known this if the sewer guy would have come here last year and told us we needed to change our rates? Would we have known that the people down there? Well, they did a study, but I know, but I mean, would we have known that there were different rates down there?
Oh, yeah, we knew, I mean, when I look back at this, I think in 2008, it almost looks like that was, I don't know, was that the first time we ever started charging maintenance fees on the sewer in Fairway Meadows? I think before they just paid whatever the WW. So, and we were maintaining it, so, you know, there has been some progress, but it definitely hasn't been looked at in the big picture as to, you know, we should have slowly been increased to build up the cash flow that we could actually do some large capital projects. But as far as the interceptor, I don't think until I got here, no one really realized where we were at on capacity. And because I know I had to fight Jessica on even telling her that we really needed this within 3 years.
How long have the people most of the people been paying $31.50 rate?
It went,
That was 2014 is when it went to 31.
Yeah.
There was a gradual increase from 2013, and then, so they passed an ordinance that stepped it up in 2013, and then in 2014.
Yeah, 2013 was $29.30 for the first 6,000, and then it was $1.20 per CCF, and then in 2014 it went up to $31.50 at the same minimum, and the CCF rate went up 7 cents to $1.27. And I think at that time, I was here just in a different capacity. At that time, I think sewer was operating in a deficit, so that brought it into the good, but didn't forecast really for large capital.
It was running in the deficit. Nobody would think that they should raise the price of the people that are paying $11.
Well, the people that are paying the $11.50 is there's not enough users there to generate enough to really bring it out of.
But to Mike's point on another subject, every penny counts.
Right.
I mean.
What's right is right.
Yeah.
There's a right way to run it, a wrong way to run it, and that was just part of the larger problem. The whole thing was run wrong.
All right, I believe we're ready for the question. Quarter roll call vote, please.
Okay. Vice Mayor Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Dial,
Yes.
Commissioner Gallick,
Yes.
Commissioner Plunk,
Yes.
Mayor Bunker,
Yes.
5-0.
Item passes unanimously. I will ask the city manager if you would show us some mercy and get as much communication as possible out about this, even over-communicate about it.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing a fairly large address and publication on this. I think with input from y'all as well, so I can draft something up, let y'all see it, edit it, we can get it out.
I want a letter. I mean, something that.
Sooner the better.
I think we also talked about, I think we're here, we talked about maybe purchasing Lakeland Currents, like on the front page, purchasing something for ours. You know, this is a news report. This is market's different. Yeah, it's something that we. So, and I think they provided some pricing for it too. So. Okay.
Resolution authorizing the city to place a final surface course in the preserve subdivision.
We have a motion to get us to the floor.
Motion.
Have a second? Second by Commissioner Plunk.
Can I reread the title of that resolution? It's actually different. Make sure that we have the right title. The title of the resolution is a resolution authorizing street repairs and the installation of a 1.5-inch asphaltic concrete surface course in the preserve subdivision.
Okay, I will still recognize Mayor Bunker's motion and Commissioner Plunk's second.
Okay.
All right, items on the floor for discussion.
So what percentage of development has to be complete to trigger this?
The resolution says 80%, and it talked to a representative today of the preserve. Their CC&Rs call for a 75% threshold. I talked to Chris about it. It seems like a fairly easy change.
Can we just do 75?
I think makes sense.
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend
Did we have a motion if you want to?
that's the first
Yeah,
one.
we have a motion, I made a motion, Commissioner Point, seconded. I'll make a motion that the development trigger be 75% versus the proposal 80% threshold.
We have an amendment on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
My question is not whether or not to do it. My question really is around the priority list. So do we have an idea of when it will get to 75? That's a crazy question. But not when will it get to 75%? And two, if it's not going to be this year, does it need to be in this year's budget?
Yeah, I don't have an answer right now. We may talk to the applicant. I think they have a better handle on how many lots are out there now. We can find that out, but they didn't have a good handle for tonight's discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
If you'd like to speak on behalf, you're welcome to, sir. Please state your name and address.
David Carlson, 4025 Potterwoods Cove in Lakeland, and on the board of the Preserve Homeowner Association. And we would not expect to reach that 75% threshold. I would say at the earliest it would be at the end of this calendar year, probably more likely the spring of next year is what we would, I think, hope to be at that level. I've forgotten exactly how many lots there. I think we're probably 3 or 4 short right now from anything where any construction's been contemplated really. So I think it's, in a perfect world for us, it would be something, so I guess we would be the tail end of the calendar of this coming budget cycle, but I'd say it's probably less than a 50% chance that it would happen in that time frame, probably spill more over into, say, the beginning of the next budget cycle.
And my second question is, would you guys be open to a cap on this? For example, you've got 3 bids and the highest came up to 150. We have had Emily thought it would be closer to 2 or 3. Would you be comfortable?
I think we would be. I mean, we're grateful for this, for you, for this body's willingness to consider it and the spirit in which you've addressed it. So I think we would be, again, we're grateful for anything. So we would be open to that.
I'd like to add something. We will probably come in this year and internally do some street patching on some of the really bad street failures. And then that way we'll give them, something decent to drive on, and then do the paving probably next budget cycle. I think that would be.
What about that manhole that's got a cone on top that I was afraid to go over with my Land Cruiser?
Well, it's because the road that has sank around the manhole.
It's pretty high.
The manhole didn't move, but that's so nobody gets their car tore up trying to do it. That's what I would like to do is that once we get our street crew going, hopefully we'll have them go out and do some patching in some of the really bad spots and going to get the road to a condition that we can just come in and pave. I think that'll save us on some costs too.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I do want to clarify something. So you asked for a cap like of 150,000.
Yes, ma'am. I would like to make a motion to amend it to actually 180,000, which would be 20% above their highest estimate. That way, whether it happens this year, next year, or 4 years from now, we have capped our risk.
So you want, and your highest bid was 150?
It was somewhere in that neighborhood. They were all in the kind of 135 to 150 range.
Why would you want to go up even?
It could happen 2 or 3 or 6 years from now. We don't know how long it's going to
So that's the current bid. And those bids are only good for about 90 days.
So I made the motion. So I'm not going to say.
Well, let me ask you, and I'll tell you what, just for conversation, I'll get the second. So let's bring it up for a second. Can I mention something? What kind of, or I'll ask something of the city engineer. Now, if we put a cap on this and it comes back $200,000, then we got to coordinate with the neighborhood association to get $20,000 from them And that may take them some time to get that together. In the meantime, the road continues to deteriorate. We get into another budget year. It gets pretty complicated. And what we're talking about here is, Mr. Chairman, what I mentioned was that if we say, okay, 180,000 is our cap, that sounds good, and I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I'm just trying to think it through. So if it comes back and it's $200,000, then we got a $20,000 cap. We've got to go back to the homeowner association and say, hey, we need $20,000 from you. May or may not have it on hand. If they don't have it on hand, they've got to go to their members and get it. Collection of that $20,000 is going to take some time. Delay the project, further deterioration of the rate, maybe another budget year, don't know. Just thinking they may have it on hand, I don't know. But if we do that, then it could cause delays in the progress of this thing. Also, we are talking about correcting. It's my contention that this problem was created by bad policy and/or bad procedure, and it's probably bad policy and procedure. The policy, I think, back then was, okay, on these private streets, we don't collect securities. But in the development contract, it said that the security be held until public and private improvements were complete. So they're contradictory. So you have policy, and you didn't follow the contract. It's bad procedure. I think it's a combination of both. Here is another gift from our predecessors that that we're paying for. I love budget time because it's so packed with entertainment. But here we've got another bill to pay because we had bad policy and we didn't follow apparently the contract. And I know this gives our attorney some indigestion because he believes, he could defend the city, and I believe in his capability to do so if this were. But I believe the right thing to do is for the city to go and make right the problem we created.
Mr. Mayor, to respond on the reason for the cap was because we may have some people raise their hand and say that, this is a private road, and if we're going to accept all liability for it, then it should be made public, meaning that it could possibly jeopardize their gated community. They would have to decision to make. I think by capping it, it makes it to where if it doesn't happen in a certain time frame, then they have that additional responsibility, and therefore it's still, because that responsibility could exist, not that it would, that it could exist, then it has a right to remain private. That was my reason.
Okay, so and I think we capped it at 220. What is the amount? 225, 250, 230 or whatever. That's what we budgeted for. But I guess we have placed an official cap. So if it goes over 230, we would have to amend our budget to accommodate.
No, budget is
This is
a
cap.
appropriate time. There's no cap.
Okay.
That's our estimation from that number.
But you can cap it, right?
Well, I would something about the capping. So if the city contracts with a paving company to pave the street, if the bid comes back at $250,000, even if our cap is $150 and they're bringing $100 to the table, we have to budget $250, even if we're bringing in that revenue, because we're spending out $250. So, long got tired.
Yeah.
I'll withdraw my motion.
No objection.
Any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, I will call for a roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Ronan,
Yes.
Commissioner Dial,
Yes.
Commissioner Gallick,
Yes.
Commissioner Plum,
Yes.
Mayor Bunker.
Yes.
5-2.
Item passes. Thank you. Next item.
Resolution amending resolution 2016/04-32 regarding the extension to the sewerage concept plan for Lake Forest mixed-use plan development.
A motion from Commissioner Gallus to get it to the floor. Do I have a second? Second by Commissioner Dow. Mr. Skeen, would you like to?
I'll take this.
Yes.
This resolution and the next are simply housekeeping matters for the board to go back and sort of readdress two resolutions that you took up previously. There was a slight change in the language that does not impact what you did. In fact, it cleans up a few typos in the resolution, frankly, to make certain that the resolution does effectuate what you discussed and voted on for both this and the next in connection with Lake Forest. In particular, this changes the typo amount of date for the extension.
Mr. Chairman, can we take both at one time? Can they read 7-2 and we'll do a motion for both?
Do I have any objection? Seeing no objection?
Resolution amending Resolution 2016/04-35 regarding extending the expiration term of the secondary detailed development plan for Lake Forest mixed-use plan development.
I'll make a motion to both resolutions.
Second. I'll second. All right, discussion, seeing no discussion. Seeing
Who's
no,
the second? I'm sorry.
I was. Seeing no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Madam Recorder, you'll note Commissioner Brown voting no. No, you did? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, you want to do a roll call on that to clarify?
No, he changed, he clarified it, so we're unanimous. Yeah, we're good. Okay.
Very good.
All right, do we have any announcements?
Real quick, Mr. Chairman, real quick, this was an oversight on my part. I meant to bring up the amendment, and since neither one of these was brought up for discussion, I guess we're just holding for second reading, if that's all right. But I will be bringing an amendment for the drainage improvements, and I'm going to be considering this the restroom. Probably
For those of you in the audience that didn't receive it, Mayor Bunker is saying that he plans on bringing an amendment to add bathrooms at IH Park for $125,000.
No, I'm going to bring an amendment for the drainage improvements in Oakwood subdivision.
Okay.
And I'm going to consider the bathrooms at IH Park between now and then. The issue that I foresee happening, at IH Park if we don't have the restrooms there is you've got a huge crowd of people there listening to great bands and enjoying some wine in the park, and then they have nowhere to go. I walk behind a tree and I trip over one of them, man, it'd be horrifying, you know. So anyway, I think that it needs to be seriously talked about.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that goes hand in hand with the reminder that I was given by Commissioner Dow as far as setting a date for the budget meeting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. What I'll do is send out a few dates, the possibility to get your response. If you want to do it that way, we can do it. Take them in within the next 2 weeks, but after these, we're prepared for the next board session on the 31st. So with that, and I think that list, we brought in the 2 items from last week, but that list is growing. So I think after the next work session, we'll have a list of amendments that we can consider, at the next work session, officially vote on those, incorporate them into the budget. So I'll send a date for a possible meeting.
I have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Dow. Second by Mayor Parker. We are now.